Hello and welcome back to the Goat Cave podcast. Today, episode 104, and we have a very special guest who also has a BMX podcast called Different Spokes. We're, of course, talking about Matt from the Yeah. Matt, thank you so much for coming on today. It was really sick to go on your show a little while ago, and I had such a great time that I really wanted to make sure we, return the favor here. So how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. It's really cool to be on this side now.
Of course, eh? Dude, it was so much fun coming on your show. And, like, I don't know, I really love the fact that there's other BMX shows out there, doing the grind and doing different things too, right? Like, I don't know, I feel like my show is very interview oriented, where, like, I really try to get good research and whatnot. But I don't know, I really like the casual shows, and the way that you do your show is awesome. I really enjoy it. And something that I'm really jealous of is that you actually have video on your show on Spotify, which is like, dude, I wish that I would have done that. But I'd literally have to go through and put all of my episodes up through Anchor instead of the site that I use currently, which is like, oh, it's such a task with over 100 episodes now,
Yeah. I shout out to Andrew Vargason. He's the one who I was a couple episodes deep already using SoundCloud, because SoundCloud can publish out. And then he showed me Anchor, and it was like free, which is crazy because it's owned by Spotify. And then once Rogan went to Spotify, I was like, all right, so Spotify owns Anchor, but he's the only one that gets video. Like, what's going on? And then I found out, like, oh, they slow rolled this out as like a feature, and I was like, perfect timing. That's kind of like when I decided to switch over. So once Anchor had like that button where you could upload video, that's just how it worked, like you said. And maybe there's like a way that they can transfer it over for you.
Yeah, dude, I'm definitely going to look into it, because I was absolutely mind blown. I didn't even realize that people could just upload video to Spotify now. I thought it was for like exclusive podcasts, but I was like really mind blown and really impressed, Like, it's really sick to see that you're taking the time to go through and figure out the best way to publish your show and make sure that you get the best quality thing out to your people. And I love it, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, like, that's part of the reason why you do it, right? Is so you can show how you would like it to be done in a way,
Yeah, of course. But yeah, changing off of that topic, I was really interested in, kind of your years past within BMX. So on your show, we talked a little bit about, as a kid, you got super stoked on BMX, and your dad took you and a friend to a skate park at one point, and it was awesome. Do you have any other great memories just from those younger years of BMX riding?
Yeah, dude. The very first time he took me to the skate park, the very first time I ever got to a skate park, I'm geeked up, so excited, like a kid going to Disney World, right? And it's at Penn Skate, the old location. And it's a lot of old East Coast destruction videos. You'll see old Penn Skate footage, old Butcher clips at this place. And my first time there, I'm like, never ridden anything like this. And I get there and everything looks so huge. I decide to try and ride this little metal ledge, and it's like, it was like solid metal and might have been waxed up. It might have been the first time I ever encountered waxed metal in my life. Long story short, I slipped out on a feeble and hit my tailbone like within the first 10 minutes of getting there.
Ooh.
And I hit my tailbone so hard that I couldn't tie my shoes for the next week. I remember that. Like, I couldn't bend over and like support my core.
Oh man, that is so rough. I had a I had a very similar thing happen at, there was this crappy little indoor park that the city would set up in the wintertime. And like, back then I used to think, oh, this place was so crappy. It was $3 to get in. It was city run. So it's all like prefab stuff. It's just not great. Right. But now it's like, it's been gone for years. And I wish that it was still here, because I would have so much fun there now that I'm such a better rider than then. Anyways, they just had this really small half pipe there. The width of it was really not that great. Like, I think 10 feet. And I'm just trying to learn how to air. And I come off the side of the quarter the one time and just like have to try and bail out. So I go to flat on the side and just loop right out and fall directly to my tailbone. Again, within the first 10 minutes of getting there, my dad was there wanting to skate too, and I'm just like so disappointed, right? Because at that time, like, of course, BMX is the only thing I thought about. Still kind of is, but yeah, dude, rough. Tailbone crashes are not fun.
No, not at all. That was the one that took a really long time to heal too.
Definitely, man. I believe it. So all those years ago, you know, obviously you had friends that you would ride with. Do a lot of those friends still ride BMX, or did they kind of stop and get interested in other stuff?
Most of them stopped.
Oh, damn. That's rough.
Yeah, I mean, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do the pod, was like I wanted to talk to everybody, like even people that have like, because I would like to reconnect with those friends and be like, what's up, like what happened.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I get the vibe now as an older person, like, oh shit, like if I really wanted to, I could just quit and stop, and it wouldn't be that hard. But some of these people, you know, you looked up to, they were really good, or actually have some talent. Like I'll be the first person to admit that I don't actually have talent on a bike. I just really like riding, and you know, some things come easier than others. But yeah, most of them. What's crazy is one of the old heads that helped me put on my first 3-piece crank, he still rides. The first shout out to Corey Martin, that's his name, not to be confused with Corey Martinez. And this other guy named Frogger, who's basically like the trail god. He used to ride for DK like a long time ago. Probably wasn't like a racing team.
Right.
And I remember like he would show up to the skate park with his race bike, and he showed us his frame. Like his frame was completely tweaked out because he had so much torque. He could like he warped the frame out.
Whoa. That's wild. I watched a dude do that at one point, like, and it was the weirdest thing ever. He's riding a We the People frame, and he just does a half cab, and then as he's like, he does a 180, and as he's coming out of the rollout, he just managed to get in a weird spot where, like, for some reason, the frame just flexed in that area and bent to the point on where his cranks, he literally had to get a new frame that night. He couldn't ride that frame anymore because the rear triangle basically just shifted over so far that the cranks wouldn't spin anymore.
Wow. And what was this within the past 10 years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this was
probably unheat treated then, right?
I don't know. It was a pro model frame. It was an aftermarket bike. So, like, I don't know why it did that. The guy is pretty talented at riding, too. It was like must have been a combination of just an old frame and somebody who's riding is just a little too heavy for it, even though the dude is, you know, a pretty small dude, like under 150 pounds. And yeah, I don't know. It was a little weird that it happened, but that stuff happens, you know?
Mm-hmm. Especially when kids first got into free coasters, when that revolution first started, all the bike shops kids were coming in with loose spokes and bent rims because they're just under rotating their 9th or 180.
Yeah, definitely. Dude, I was bad for that. When I first got into BMX, that was like when the coaster was really becoming a big thing, and I couldn't even do a 180 yet, and I like went out and bought a free coaster. And then like I think I rode it for a year, and there was all these issues with it, and I've been a cassette guy ever since. And I should have always been a cassette guy. I really enjoy the cassette, and I've half cab downstairs sets and stuff on a cassette. Like, you can do it. It's just way harder. And like, I don't know. I like the pedal pressure though. I don't know if you agree, but having that pedal pressure is awesome.
If I had to say if there was any kind of thing that I would be like really into, it's how people turn out of fakies. I feel like there's like 4 different ways to turn out.
Right.
I don't know why I brought that up.
No, that's cool though. That makes sense. Like, I feel like the half cab is so overdone, but it's also the best way, right? Like a rollout. I feel like a good rollout where you just, you know, keep the back end on the ground, but you just do that quick spin out is really sick on a cassette when you're going super fast, right? Like nice big burly 180 over something, and then you land and just that like little quick turnaround, you know? There's some dudes who do it really, really well. I really like that style, especially when they just keep pedaling afterwards. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's like a power thing because you
Yeah.
can kind of maintain speed. I always liked it, like somebody like Chase D, like if he does something quick and snappy, he doesn't like creep around. He keeps that speed going. And some people like Dan Foley is like, even if he's going slow, he's got a way to maintain the speed, and it kind of helps it look clean. And sometimes with coasters, not all coaster people, but you know, you can bunny hop like 40 degrees and get your rollout and count it if you want to, which is, I mean, you've seen the ending of Deadline, right? You've seen Garrett annihilate that stair set with a cassette. It's proof in the pudding that it doesn't matter what you have. It's just what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was funny when Garrett made the switch, because I feel like a lot of cassette purists were very like upset in a way. You know, I personally kind of was. I was like, man, like you were our guy, you know, like everybody else was switching, and I get it, you know, it's way easier. And the stuff that he's done since then on a a coaster, it just makes sense, right? Like who just goes and does a full cab T-bog down a 5 block? Like no one. Garrett, that's it, right? Even if it's on a like coaster, he's still doing it better than anybody else. That's Ender a few years ago for X Games Real BMX Street, where he does the full cab tail whip down a big like 3 block, I think it is. And Lewis Mills also did the same thing, but he did it on a 3 stair instead. And it's like, dude, that's tough, you know? Like the 3 block is way more impressive because it's way bigger, but like also Lewis did it on a smaller set, right? Like, is that more impressive? Who knows? But yeah, I was definitely a little disappointed when Garrett switched to coaster, even though he absolutely rips it and kills it.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody's gonna get a pass for switching,
Definitely.
it's gonna be, so.
Yeah, I'm just happy that Chase Dehart hasn't done it yet. I'm like, dude, I love his style of riding, and I love the no bar spin and no coaster. Like, just looks so sick, you know?
He does do bars, dude.
I know, I've seen him do them, but it's not very often, you know?
Right, they're very interesting looking, too.
Yeah.
He gets away, and you know what? One time he did one in person, and it was like, what the fuck just happened? But it was so clean.
That's hilarious. Yeah, his tail whip game is like my favorite thing in the world, right? Like his whips are so fucking clean, and just like I love that style of whips. They just look so good.
Now, do you remember him ever doing tail whips with brakes, or was it only after he was brakeless did he do them?
I've really only ever looked at footage of him brakeless.
So he used to kill it with brakes, and he'd go up to a spine and be like tick tack tick tack tick 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 tick, and like all so super fast, where like, you know, some people sit on it trying to figure it out and then get to the next one.
Right.
He was like, no, brr, 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 and then back out, and that was his thing. And I don't remember ever seeing him tail whip back then.
Damn. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if taking the brakes off and like just trying to work on having that nice clean street style maybe kind of forced him to learn how to do really good whips, you know?
Yeah. Maybe he did one in some of the old Bad Timing videos. Bad Timing was a video project, I think by Daryl Taco and his crew he grew up with. And there might be some footage in there that I might be forgetting about.
Nice. I'll have to look into it. If I find some footage, I'll put it in right here. That seems like it could be sick, though. I really should go back and watch those older videos, too. It's so difficult, man. The stuff that comes out nowadays is, like, so frequent and also so gnarly, right? Like, even the stuff you see on Instagram, there was a dude, like, a week ago who did a full pipe loop, but started in the full pipe just pumping around.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
Dude, is the wildest clip I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. Like, I've been riding a ton of full pipes this year. There's one that I found, and I've just been going, like, consistently every, like, month or so. I actually just did a bunch of photos with my buddy Chris there. And, dude, it's just, when you're in a full pipe and you're actually in a good one, it gets pretty fucking scary, especially with how tight they are. And I just can't imagine being in a full pipe and just like, all right, I'm going to start in the flat, pump 3 times, and then just loop the whole thing. That makes 0 sense. Like, even the one that Morgan Wade did, the concrete one, that's out in Wyoming, I think it is. He had to go up a big wall first to gain a bunch of speed, and then came in and carved down the side of it, right? And then did it. And it makes sense because that one's like, 100, 200 feet long. He's got more space to just really plan it out and find the perfect spot. Whereas this dude literally just has to pump 3 times and then do it. Like the craziest shit ever.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those 10,000 hours type things where somebody's really familiar with their speed and their control, where they're like, I'm not even scared. Shit. My buddy Paul Rad recently did like a clamshell.
Yep.
He basically did a full loop, did like a loop.
That's wild.
I've seen him ride in person, he's pretty good, but I didn't know he was like that good. Like, holy shit. Like, to me, that's just like a whole nother world. I would probably never, ever in a million years,
Dude, it's wild. But in Montreal, which is like only about 6 hours from me, they have a bunch of those oververt like capsules, basically. Like they have 3 or 4 skate parks with those just built into it, where you're like, why does a normal public skate park have this, right? Like,
right, this is a hazard for everybody else.
Yeah, dude. So I found one on Google while we were like on a trip, and I was like, dude, this one, just the photos of it, I was like, okay, this one looks really small. Like this looks like it's probably, a 12-footer, which is like, yeah, it's big, but in the span of like, capsule loops, essentially, that's not too bad. So we all fucking hop in the van and we head over there at 8:30 in the morning because it was it was directly in a heat wave, like the hottest day of that summer, probably the hottest day in the last like 3 years. So we're there at 9 a.m. Just like we pull up and I see it, I go and look at it. This thing's at least 15 feet tall, which is like, that extra 3 feet really fucking adds to like how gnarly this thing was. And my buddy Jesse and I, we just start, carving around this bowl, just starting to figure this thing out. And we were both kind of doing it in a different way, but we both carved to the left. So I was kind of doing it like, it's hard to explain, but like he eventually actually did loop it, which is so fucking gnarly, especially like shirtless in a tiny little helmet and like these orange ridiculous shorts. He fucking looped it just out of the blue. And then myself, I got pretty close to looping it, but I did it over all of my buddies in the bottom, and we got an awesome photo of it. And
cool.
Definitely one of my favorite photos ever. But like, dude, just, it's so gnarly, but also it's so easy. As long as you're comfortable carving through like a bowl and knowing how to like, just keep your speed and keep your pump, you're pretty much set. Like, I think the only scary part is like, you really got to have enough speed. And I feel like you see it where people will like compress way too much, and that's where they start to fall back. You kind of have to keep it like loose, but also, I don't know, it's really tough because keep in mind, I've never actually fully looped it. Like the closest that I got was both my tires were over my head. I am upside down, like classified upside down, but my tires are not, completely straight up in the air. They are on the side of a wall, like almost. Like an
overcarved.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, but he did it and like fully went upside down, and his fucking front tire came off on the top, and I don't know how he managed to roll away from it, but jeez, man.
Has anyone actually looped a loop like that long ways, like a roller coaster where it's like more elongated?
I don't know.
Because that would be fucking sick. And I don't think I've seen anyone do that.
Yeah. I've always wanted to loop that one that I was just talking about twice, where you like go through and then like come back and hit it another way as well, but like right after each other, basically. I just don't know how well that would work. You see like Corey Walsh do it, and a couple of those like fast and loose dudes. They seem to be really good at those capsules, but yeah, that's just not for me, man. I got a bash guard bike. It's already hard enough getting that fucking thing upside down. So
True.
Hell yeah. So a few minutes ago, we were talking about talent a little bit. You had at least mentioned it. And something I did want to mention is that I feel like I'm very similar, where within BMX, a lot of the stuff that I've done on a bike, I really had to work for. You know, I have some buddies that like it just seems to come so easily to them where like they're so good and so talented on a bike and like, you know, it's not without work. They definitely put in some hard work, but just like, you know, I feel like that's kind of a good thing in BMX is having to really work for something and not have that talent because like you really have something to show for it afterwards. And yeah, certain days you go out and ride and it's way too difficult and it's just not fun, you know, because like you're not landing any of your tricks that you want or anything like that. But I don't know. I feel like it's more rewarding when you really got to work for it.
Hell yeah. Like one of the coolest parts about BMX to me is like it's not easily learnable. Like so even the people who are effortless like still had to start from somewhere, whether it's their spatial ability, you know, body makeup, their intuitiveness, whatever it is. It's just, you know, we all had like it's so cool because it's like you are kind of teaching yourself it, and everybody rides different, and there's some sketchy motherfuckers out there, you know.
So true. Yeah, I actually, dude, I love filming with like sketchy people sometimes because like they're really putting in the work and you kind of never know, right? Like there's certain clips that I film with people that like you're watching them do it and just that like sketchy landing and whatnot can be like kind of, I don't know, it can be really sick when they actually do pull it. I find sometimes when people are so robotic and like so good, it kind of gets boring. Like I know Nigel Houston, you know, he gets a ton of hate as a skater for being so fucking clean and like he's just so good where like it looks so easy. And I feel like a lot of skaters really don't like that personally. I don't know if you would agree or if you know who Nigel is at all, but
I do. I know him a little bit, like, or no, I don't know him, but I know him a little bit, and the one day instead of watching bike edits, I don't ever watch skate shit, but the one day I was like, what's this Ninja dude about? And I ended up watching like a whole bunch of stuff on him, and I was like, I don't really know why people hate on him because
I think it's just that he's so good and so clean, and also, I mean, he's gotta have like, there's got to be a reason, right? Like, I'm curious if it's an attitude thing or something like that because I don't follow skateboarding that much. Like I really do know quite a bit about skateboarding, but like I don't know, I think it's just the fact that he's so good and all that. But also, you know, I've seen some wild fucking bails of him, dude. Some really gnarly crashes. Like
he takes his licks, dude. That's what I'm saying. Like you can't say he's like you can't say he's soft. You know, you can't say he's spoiled because, you know, he earned what he got. He does what he does. He gets to live the life he lives. If you think he's douchey because he's promoting some gamer laptop, that's fine. You can think that, but whatever. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. Like I mean, I'm really outside of all that. But like, fuck, if Chase Hawk started promoting a gaming laptop, I wouldn't give a shit. I'd be like, get that check, Chase. Like, fuck it.
Yeah, I feel like that conversation's a weird one for BMX, right? Like you have a lot of BMX purists that are really all about like you should only do something for the scene, right? You shouldn't take money from a company outside of the scene. And when I talked to Brant, which you also did a podcast with Brant as well, I'd be curious to know if you guys talked about this at all, but we did like a 45-minute segment just on like sellouts in BMX and how, you know, when you go and take money from another company that's outside of BMX, people will criticize you for it. But all it really does is bring more people into the scene and it provides more money for the scene, right? Like, It's not like people like Brant don't go out and, you know, do jams and do all that other shit, right? Like, there's a big difference, I think, between like an actual sellout who's literally just doing it for the money, they don't give a fuck about the scene, versus somebody whose livelihood is BMX and they're taking anything they can because they want to keep going and keep doing it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest, I mean, you might have, I don't know if you talked to Aiken about it, but I know he mentioned it maybe in the BMX in Our Blood pod about turning down Rockstar, or I forget exactly how it went down, but it was like, he basically said no to a lot of money.
Right.
And that was such a big statement back then. But, you know, looking back now, if he would have done that, would he have had extra cash to do whatever? Probably, you know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah, I know it's rough, right? Like it's difficult because would he have had the money to, would he still be in that accident that he had, and would that money pay for that accident, right? Like that kind of stuff, it gets expensive really quick,
Mhm.
and I don't know, right? Like I think it's weird considering Rockstar actually does sponsor a lot of BMX people, including Dennis Anderson, and they did sponsor Nyquist, did they not?
Yeah, and I think it was at Rockstar's beginning that Aiken had that.
Right.
Hence,
Yeah, that would
like
make sense.
I think it was before it was like really widely accepted that. And then, do you remember that Monster Energy drink video that was out above and below?
Yep. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That shit was fire because they had Rich Forn putting that together, who's just a god behind the lens.
Such a great video too, man. I believe Dan Lacey has a part in that, and there is a wild clip at the end there of him just doing the biggest 360 ever, like
Yes,
just so
so
wild.
tucked,
Yeah,
so proper. Shout out to that motherfucker. He is so good.
it's ridiculous. Yeah, he's so fucking good on a bike, man. Um, how, man, how long has Dan Lacey been around? It's been a while now that I think about it.
Are you familiar with the Dub BMX
Yep, I've heard of Dub.
videos?
Yeah.
Uh, as long as I've heard of Dub, I've heard of Lacey. Oh, actually, it was like a '70s distribution, like Dan Lacey thing, and it was just in the warehouse ramps at the skate park. And I don't know if it was like a welcome to the team or whatever, but it was just ramp riding, and it was like, what the? It was like, what the fuck did we just see? Because there was so much steez that you've never seen anyone like ride like that before. Before that video, it was like he's kind of steezy like Chase Hawk, but he's kind of like wild and loose, but then kind of confident and dialed.
Right. Dude, that is wild, eh?
Yeah, that video was blew people's brains off, and then I think it just kind of snowballed from there.
Man, that's gnarly. But yeah, let's hop into some topics about you, man. It's great to have you on, and you've done quite a bit within the BMX scene, and what I absolutely love is some of the originality that you bring to the community. The is sick, and I really love everything you're doing there, and I really think that the bar pads and whatnot that you're making are super cool, super original, and it's not overdone. And I
Thanks.
love like all the different designs and whatnot that you have on your site. How did you get into making bar pads, and what's the process like? I know that you pretty much do everything by hand, do you not?
Yes. I do everything by hand to the point where I'm getting to the point where I can't do everything by hand. I need help. So I have vendors that I'm like reaching out to help me, to kind of help, if I want to do any more business, if I want to, and that's the thing, it's like, it's tricky. So basically, the started out as like a blog. Are you familiar with Def Grip?
I think so.
So like back in the day, it was like these designers and photographers had this blog, and it was like they would only post the cool shit. It was like the come up was there for everything to be posted, and like only like the cool artsy shit would be on Def Grip. And every
Right.
once in a while they would have like originals where like I think Albert Mercado had an original, and like the editing was cool and different. And I used to sweat Harrison Boyce so hard because like there was only a few people I even knew about that did graphic design that got me into graphic design. It was Harrison Boyce, who did all the mutinies, or not mutiny, sorry, McNeil stuff back in the day, and Josh Clancy, who did all the Little Devil stuff back in the day for like a certain time frame. He didn't do everything, but there was like a window where he kind of had like reign, and it was like big influence. So I kind of like as I was going to college for design, the was like my Def Grip. I was like trying to, like, my one buddy is into drums, and I'd like show a video of him playing drums, and my other friend's into painting, and my other friend has a cat. Like it was just like,
Just kind of a little bit of everything.
yeah. And it was I was basically just playing make believe, just like I'm trying to show off my friends. This is, and like a little bit of me in there, mixed, like peppered in, and eventually it got more serious on the riding end of it. I met a couple people in Harrisburg, in Philly, my hometown, and we kind of like started putting together videos, and made a DVD, and then kept making videos, but eventually the crew kind of petered out, and then there was like a year where just everything was dead, and I was like, I took a break from it because I was just like, I was ready to it was just kind of like a clothing company, like a bike riding clothing company kind of thing. And I was at the point where I was about to just take all my extra merch and just go to the thrift store, donate it, and walk away. Like I was at that point, and a couple people were like, "Nah, don't do it, don't do it." I was like, the name's kind of annoying in a way because like people don't ever know what the fuck I'm talking about. What everybody's always asking me, what is the yeah? And then I was like, I used to sew the labels on the bottoms of my shirt, right? And
Right.
my mom's a seamstress, so I would always have to go to her house and use her sewing machine, And one day I found a sewing machine in the trash. My wife at the time, my girlfriend, we just decided to go for a walk after a rain, and we found this sewing machine in the trash. And it's like, it just rained. This sewing machine's got to be shot. But then I look closer, I'm like, it's bone dry. And it was kind of like a Trailer Park Boys moment, because it was like, well, they just put this out here. I guess this is free. For all I know, they could have put it out there for like their niece to pick up, and they're like, hey, I put it out there for you.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I like snack, or you know what I mean, like snatch somebody's shit, but it's like a 1963 sewing machine.
That's awesome.
It's just like solid steel. It's a beast. And I took it to my mom. I had her clean it up, and then I was like, all right, now I got this sewing machine. I can kind of fuck around a little bit. And I was seeing people ride bar pads, and I was like, well, that's definitely going to be a thing. I can tell you right now, whether or not I do it. I just knew that bar pads were going to be a thing. And then I was like, well, let me see how hard it is to make one. It's like, okay, that was pretty easy. And then I was like, let me try and make a stem pad. And I was like, what the fuck are we doing with this? Like, the way the traditional stem pad is designed is trash. And you know it because anybody that has one on their bike, they don't have it on their stem. They have it wrapped around like the top tube and down tube because it just falls over. It doesn't actually protect anything.
Right.
Like I used to have the lizard skin ones when I was growing up. And basically you would cut the extra off the handlebar and put it around your bottom bearing cup as like a dust cover to keep your FSA pig head set from getting dirty. But so then I kind of like fucked around and figured out how to make the stem buddy, and after that I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And the only fabric I had was this camo fabric that I got from a thrift store of these work jackets, and it was like really tough, rugged canvas. It's like, I really like that camo. I really like how tough this canvas is. And that was like my stock fabric for like the first year. Like, it was just, I just did camo, and that's kind of how it started.
That's awesome, dude. That's super sick. I really appreciate the DIY aspects of BMX, and I think that it's super original to be doing bar pads, stem pads, and just the combos that you're making. I really actually love the Midnight hologram one because I think it's like the perfect combination for someone that wants a bar pad but doesn't want it to be super crazy and out there, but also wants a side of safety, because at night,
Yeah.
like headlights hit that thing, people are going to see you. Like it's
Yeah.
its own light. Like that's awesome.
And all I'm doing is making shit that I would have wanted, in 2004. Like I want something that's low key, but if I'm riding at night and I got a flat black bike and I'm probably wearing all black, this black pad during the day looks like, crazy oil slick at night.
Yeah, dude, I really like that. I think that that's such a great idea. And like, dude, keep on doing it. I'd be really interested on what else you could do with sewing and DIY within BMX. Obviously, 3D printing has become such a big thing lately within BMX. But I'm kind of curious if there's any other options for DIY stuff that's possible.
Yeah, I started messing with the 3D printer as well. I just do the valve caps at the moment.
Nice.
And I think 3D printing is like at that weird point where it's like you can print parts and it is fun, but like the parts that you're not worried about breaking are the most fun to 3D print. You know, like if you're 3D printing like a head tube badge, because you can have so much fun with it. You don't have to worry about it like actually holding up to anything.
I have a head tube badge here that I had 3D printed, and then I have 2 more of them in black because the dude just printed it in gold because that was the filament that he had in. And then I was like, dude, print them in black. I'll pay you extra.
That's bad.
Yeah, dude, it worked out so well. So I just have those literally super glued to my bike. You can just use like double-sided 3M tape, I bet, and that would be fine. But yeah, I think having like, valve caps and head tube badges, it just kind of, you can customize things a little bit more. Obviously,
Yes.
Zach Gerber has been going absolutely wild with 3D printers and just like, when it comes to BMX stuff, he's making all these awesome like pedal concepts. He's making hub guards. Oh my God, sorry, plastic sleeves for pegs. And I'm very curious what else you could 3D print, right? You could do, bearing spacers. That seems like a pretty obvious one, other than maybe the pressure of having your cranks tighten down on it. Who knows, right? It might break it.
That's a really, really good product if it does work, because I mean, the hard part is anybody knowing what they need, step one, but absolutely, because then it'd be so easy to customize, and like it's not a big deal to customize. I mean,
yeah, dude, you could literally just like engrave it essentially with the 3D printer, right? Just have it like pop up with someone's logo all the way around it, and then yeah, I don't know. There's some cool options I think with that. And how much pressure does a headset like cap even have on it? I would assume quite a bit, because they are always made out of like aluminum or steel. At least aluminum, I think. But like, I don't know. I'm curious. I think that it could possibly work. That could be a good, idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, spokey dokes. I think those things are sick. Like
Definitely.
all the bike accessories to me are fun. Like yeah, you put a spokey doke on your wheel, you might get annoyed with it after a week, but it's still fun. Like, put it on your road bike, forget about it, pop it back on when you feel like it. It's just cool, weird little shit. And the pads to me the pads are the ultimate customization tool for your bike, because we've been spray painting our brakes and our rims and our bars for years, and it's cool. But if you can add one more thing to kind of play with colors and whatever, like, my bike's flat black, and sometimes I'm making stuff like the white pad or like a pink pad, and I'm thinking that would look really sick on an all chrome bike. Like in my head, I'm actually picturing what other bike setup. Like, imagine like an all chrome bike with like a brown leather seat, white tires, and like a brown pad set. Like, that could
nice. Yeah, that
and
would
then
look
the other
sick.
thing is, like, not everybody is a full pad set kind of person, and that's one thing I do differently than some companies just sell bar pads and then kits. I will sell you one or the other. It doesn't matter at all. Like, if you just want to be the stem buddy guy, you can be, and that's it. And like, you don't have to worry about, fuck, I had to buy the whole kit just so I could get that one.
Right. Yeah, dude, I think it's a really cool concept, and I'm the screen printer in me is like very curious. I wonder if it would be possible to do like a screen printed design on leather and then take that and cut it and make it into your pad set essentially. I bet you it's possible.
Possibly. I have screen printed on the regular canvas material I use.
Yeah.
Sewn that on things.
Yeah, we can definitely do it on leather, because we have inks that we use that dry direct to leather. So like, and they stay on there, which is awesome.
Okay, maybe we gotta talk after the show.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. That could be cool, man. Hell yeah.
I I got a lot of ideas planned for 2023. It's just like, for me, the hard part is like merchandising this stuff. Because like I wish all I could worry about is the design, how it's coming across, how I promote it. But I have to spend majority of my time sewing it all to begin with.
Right.
And sometimes I'll like sew something cool, and it's like I don't even fucking feel like posting this. I'm so shot, like
Dude, it's really hard. I have a really difficult time posting stuff online. I don't know. Like, I used to be a lot better at it, and now I feel like I have this weird, like, I don't know, just these thoughts where I'm like, oh man, nobody's going to care. You know, like, I'm the worst for posting clips because I just never do. Like, I know that I'm a talented rider and that I can do a lot of stuff that, like, is sick to at least me. But, like, I don't know, I have a hard time posting that stuff just because it's not what people know me for. It's not like what I am going to be doing forever. I don't know.
the
I don't
more
know.
you post
It's
it, the
tough.
more
Yeah,
people will know you of it, though.
exactly. Right. Like, and I think the other thing too is it's like, it's really easy to look at your clips and be like, oh, it was so cool that I got this. And then instantly criticize the hell out of it and be like, but I could have done it like this. Right. Like, I know we talked about a clip that I filmed on your show where it's just literally someone's front yard. They have a gap from like their walkway stair set into a like concrete bank essentially. And I went and rode that at like 2 a.m. in pitch black and just brought a camera and a light, and the filming of it wasn't great. And then on top of that, I ended up casing just like the tippy top. So I'm like, nope, can't use the clip, you know, like, oh,
Yeah.
clip's gone now. So I'm like, oh, it's ridiculous. Like, I shouldn't feel this way. I really should just post and forget about it completely. But like, I don't know. I want to have like my best stuff go up because I want to show the best parts of myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I kind of get where you're coming from is I guess what I'm saying, but so moving on from that, I did want to talk a little bit about the artwork you've done for Kink. I thought it was super sick that you've actually, you know, done some awesome stuff for Kink. And Kink's been like a really good, helpful source of like stuff within my podcast. They're always, you know, in my DMs, always saying like, good show and everything. I really appreciate the guys over there at Kink. And yeah, how did you get involved with Kink, and you know, what have been some of your favorite graphics?
It all started with a local kid in my hometown tagged me in an Instagram post, like a young kid. He must have been 12 at the time. Just tagged me in it, and it was like an apply to be it was a job posting that Kink posted on Instagram. And I was at the time graduated college, moved back in with my mom. Shit wasn't going as sweet as I thought it would, you know. And I was like, fuck it, I'll throw my hat in the ring. And they hit me up and they were like, yeah, we're interested. And they asked me to do some like preliminary design work to see if I understood what they were talking about. And then had me come up, you know, hang out for a little bit. And then I think after I got home, they offered me to move me up there to Rochester. I was in Pennsylvania, so it was a big deal. You know, I couldn't even afford to do that. Like, I was so broke that they paid for me to even move, which is fucking awesome. You know what I mean? Like, that's really big.
Absolutely.
And, I got to work with. There was 2 people that had worked there before, and I was taking over both positions, and there really wasn't anybody there to train me. Like, Matt Antez is like the product dude. He's got shit on lock. The way he thinks about bike parts is crazy. And so he would, you know, help guide me along, but it wasn't like an exact designer that was like, we only use this paper, or this is how, you know what I mean? So like there was a little bit of a learning curve there to like fully get it, but you know, helping Tony with his Solace seat, like he already had the death metal graphic, but I like took it and made it like more metally, you know,
Right.
and to be able to even have my hands on BMX history at all is a blessing, I would say, you know. And So I got to help him with this complete bike, like picking out paint jobs. We would get um, prototype frames in, and we get the decals separately, and I would be the one that put the stickers on it for like the photography, like that. Like there was pride in all that shit, you know,
Wild, yeah.
like weird little BMX geeky pride in all of it. And I think one of my favorite things, I mean, my favorite things are working with Tony and working with Sean Sexton. Like I mean, I got to meet a lot of the other dudes, and they're like Jake Petruchik, Dan Collar, you know, um, Lloyd Wright. That motherfucker is clean at riding. You know, I got to hang out with a lot of people, meet a lot of people, but I say design work wise, working with Tony and Sean was so sick, because you know I got to. It wasn't like me just coming up with a shirt design and saying, "Hey, this is cool," or "You guys should print this." It was like, you know, Sexton wanted his graphics to be similar to some album artwork. I think it was J. Cole, and you know, we worked it out, we got it done, and then I did like a Kink BMX, like little handwriting, little like jot it down kind of thing, and you know, years after I stopped working there, they still were using it. It was like, damn, that's kind of sick. That's painted real big on Ray's. At Ray's, you know what I mean? Like that's my handwriting. Like what the fuck?
That's awesome, dude. It's super sick to see companies doing that. You know, I really appreciate that they would go out of their way and be like, all right, people that are on Instagram that follow us, we're looking for someone. You know, they don't immediately go and find someone who doesn't actually pay attention to BMX at all. And it's really cool that like you were able to do all that stuff, man. Like working with them and all the designs you've made. I've seen quite a few of them, dude. Super
cool.
sick.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. What were some of your favorite products that you got to work on?
The Tony seat,
nice
for sure, because that was like a stealth pivotal. So like Kink invented stealth pivotal, so I had to help them. Well, I just helped make the PDF that they used to like patent it. You know what I mean? Like,
wild.
It was really cool to be a part of a product that was like kind of not, you know, kind of existed, or it didn't exist before. You know, pivotal existed, but like stealth didn't. So it was like kind of cool to be a part of that, and like the complete bikes, helping pick color schemes for that. You know, that's where Sexton's bike came in. We, you know, pulling graphics in, doing like the clothing shoots too. Like we would design a bunch of shirts and then put them up on the wall, and all get together as a group and be like, all right, so what do you guys think? You know, and go through it. So it was, you know, it was a really cool, fun, creative process. Probably one of my favorite times is I almost beat Chris Doyle at ping pong.
That's sick. That's hilarious.
I started to geek out because I had him, and like I got too excited, and just like one small mistake, and it was it.
Oh.
So it was like a little company party thing.
That's hilarious. When I was on your show, we started out by, you know, watching my video and going through and talking about it. And later on in the show, we had actually talked about your video, Fucks With It. So I actually went through and I watched a bit of the video today, was really, really hyped on how it looked and how it turned out. And I will say it's unfortunate that that the songs for 2 or 3 of the parts had to be taken out, unfortunately, and swapped with another one. I always find that it's really difficult to do that because, one, once you've exported it, you can't really go back and swap out a song super easily. Like it's kind of built around a song for the most part. And then you obviously will miss out on the audio from, you know, just the riding itself. And I don't know if it's just a weird like video purist in me, but I have to have that audio there, right? Like if I see a dude doing a feeble grind, if I don't hear that grind, it's weird, man. There's got to be a good balance of both, right? You should hear both.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, again, unfortunate that copyright took that stuff out of there. However, I really enjoyed the video. And one of the clips that I really wanted to ask about was there's a 180 over a rail, and the dude catches his back tire on the rail. And this is a hefty fall, dude, a hefty bail. What ended up happening here? Because it kind of just cuts off, and I don't know if there's a full-length video of that crash in the aftermath, but
you know what? It exists on a tape, and I should probably pop that out. I should go through like Skirbo and just, raw log all the clips and just post them.
I'd love it. I'd love to see that.
That was my buddy Josh Stair. Like I don't want to pretend like I was going to do it, but I remember I used to go past the spot all the time and I was like, that can happen. And I was thinking, jump on it, jump over the rail, that's it. And I realized one day, so Josh Stair is somebody who I met in Harrisburg who, we immediately started riding with each other, but I had to convince him to be a part of the Fucks with It video. I was like, no, dude, I really want to do this video. And like, he didn't get, I was kind of serious about it at first. And then later on it was like, oh, so did you actually see him jump it regular?
I don't think I did. No.
So there's a different video. It's swanging and banging.
Okay.
One of those. It's swanging and banging, glitching and bitching, clipping and dipping. I have all these. That's like kind of like the weird naming convention I started.
Yeah.
But in one of them, I show him jump it regular. Maybe it's still in Fucks with It. I don't even know. It's all blur. But he jumped it normal first, and then he went back to 180. He clipped. He was completely fucking fine.
That's wild, dude.
Yeah.
I
mean, he was shook.
Yeah.
He was hurting, but he went back home, smoked a bowl.
It was perfectly fine. That's hilarious. Dude, I always think back to the clip from Dakota Roach. I think it was, or Dakota Roche, sorry. I always look back at that clip from, I think it's Fit Life, where he goes to 180 over a rail and catches his wheel and then lands face first in a puddle. And it's like the most unfortunate clip ever. But such an amazing start to a video,
Yeah. Talk about grit.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean?
Like, it doesn't get much grittier.
Yeah, definitely. It's like the craziest clip, dude. I instantly, whenever I think of a 180 over a rail, I think of that. And then I have a very close friend who was filming with a dude, and they tried to 180 over a rail and broke his leg. And it was a very small, like literally a 3-stair over a rail into a driveway, maybe not even a 4-foot drop, and just like landed weird, broke his leg. Unfortunate, right? But like whenever I think of a spin over a rail, that's all I think about is like the Dakota Roche clip, and then this other dude, and now like of course I'm gonna think about this clip too. Like I think 180s are just one of those tricks where it's like you really got to be careful when you're going over something like that.
Mm-hmm. Or be ready to bail, but seriously, you're probably not going to bail out of it, so you better clear the shit out of it.
Oh, yeah.
I was riding a parking lot once with my buddy Ganware. Him and I would just nibble all day on manual pads in parking lots. I think that was our thing. And the one, he can bar spin, and he taught me how. And he went to go bar spin into like this little bank in the parking lot. And there was a steel cord across the whole parking lot, and like the little ribbons that they tie on it so you can see it were like pushed to the side.
Right.
He went to go bunny hop and like caught it in his forearms right when he went to go bar.
No.
I mean, he didn't get super duper hurt, but I think it was just such a like an insult / like scary thing.
Definitely.
I feel like he was really bothered by it. Like, I would be too. I don't blame him at all.
Yeah. Dude, I think back on some of the clips that I filmed, and I'm like, I 180'd over a chain down a stair set, and I'm like, dude, that has got to be one of the dumbest things ever. Like, chains are so unforgiving, where, like, there is so much footage of people online just catching their back wheel on a chain and just dying. Yeah. Like, I should not have ever done that. And it wasn't a hard thing to do. I mean, if you could 180 that stair set, you could easily 180 over the chain and the stair set. But, like, dude, it's just, I don't know. Now that I think about it, I'm like, God damn, dude, that was like, you would have got really fucked up. Like,
yeah, shit can go south quick on shit like that.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, man. I did watch your part too, and I really enjoyed your part. I was curious, did you have any struggles while filming the video, as in like clip battles or anything like that?
Oh, in fucks with it, yeah. It was crazy because it's like spent so much time making that video, but my section ended up being so short. And one of the gnarly things was like I fell on that thing on that ledge and like literally ruined my shoulder. You can see my little shoulder thing stick out.
Yeah.
Like separated my shoulder. It's all fucked up just from that one fall. It's like that's when I realized like you can really fuck yourself up for life. But the other thing was my last clip. It was on a roof. It was like not a storm door, but it was a wedge on a roof, and it was narrow. And I'm not super good at bar spins by any means, and a bar on a wedge is probably the only thing I can do. But going straight up and turning straight down, like for anybody else, that would be mad easy. But for me, it was like, I'm not that good at this, and now I got to try and be really good to like not eat shit on this roof right now, because everything's made out of shingles. So if you fall on that, that's going to suck. And then the ground was actually made out of rocks, like just like pebble stone. So you had to like pedal through gravel to get to the thing and then try and throw the bar and turn back around. And it was just like, and there's also in that same video part, there's a wedge that's like a tree got demolished and that wedge is like picked up real cool.
Right.
And I feel like doing that bar spin on that like prepared me for my ender bar spin.
Nice.
Because that spot was so fucking cool, and all I could picture was like all the animal dudes doing a bunny hop bar on this, and I was like, I can bar spin. I know I got this. It's just a little wedge, like, but it would look so fucking sick if I could get this. And it's like, but I ain't that good. Let's just fucking see if we can squeeze it out. And that, what I mean? Like, sketchy is actually cool.
Definitely, yeah.
To me, any completion is cool. And a lot of the times when you're trying to be super steezy and you end up being like real shaky, that's when it's like the funnest.
Definitely. Yeah, man, I really enjoyed that clip, by the way. I saw that and instantly was like, it has all the elements of a good clip where one, it's like you guys are on top of a roof for no reason at all, right? You guys have found a spot on top of a roof. It's a bar spin, so it's automatically sick in my mind because I can't do bars. And then on top of that, it's just like, it's an ender clip, right? I always think of like enders as it's something that somebody had to work for. It's not just something that happens easy. So I knew that there was definitely a battle behind that, but it's really sick to hear about it.
Did you happen to stick around for the clip that happens after it with no music?
I believe so, yeah. I can't remember what clip it was, but I know I watched it.
So that is like my full ender, and that clip, I did one night fucking around, not even trying too hard, and it just came real easy. And I was like, fuck, I got to go back and film that. And it ended up being like a lot harder the second time around, but it really wasn't that hard. It was just like technically kind of cool. That's all.
That's awesome, man. I love it. We had so many battles while filming my videos, so it's sick to see other ones, right? Like the first one that I think about, a good buddy of mine, Jesse, he was trying to do, basically this rail setup is really weird, but it's picture like a flat rail that's, 2.5 feet tall, but then on both sides of the flat rail, it's like a C, right? But it's like sharp edges, right? It would be a box, but there's a wall over here. So he goes and hops over the first rail into the center onto that rail, and then he has to hop over the next rail afterwards onto the sidewalk on the other side. It's like an in and out essentially, but with a double peg grind. And he's trying to do a hard 180 out over top of the other rail. God. Dude, that fucking clip took us 9 months to film, and we would only ever go and do it at like 1 in the morning on the middle, it's like right in the center of like one of the busiest areas of Waterloo where I live. So literally we would have to go film it at 1 in the morning on a Friday, and there's people coming out of the bar and whatnot, so it's already hard enough with so many people walking by, but like that was kind of the only time that we wouldn't get kicked out of there. Or there wouldn't be like a ton of actual traffic because he has to go across the crosswalk first, then hop onto this right afterwards. So yeah, it was such a hassle, and it's one of those things that like the footage, it's 6 seconds, and anybody who watches it has no idea. They're just like, oh, that's cool. But it's like, dude, you have no idea how many nights we fucking went there and set up. Like, it's wild.
You know, and that makes me wish that every bike video came with a commentary section.
Dude, I've honestly really wanted to do like a full commentary section over my videos. And we did a podcast years ago where we watched the video and then I had everybody talk about their parts. But everybody, it was so difficult because we had 11 or 12 people in this room. So it's like people didn't, I don't know, people are all drinking, they're all having fun, and then it gets pretty loud, and then it's like, dude, I'm trying to do a thing, and I can't do it with 8 people talking in the corner, right? Like, it's supposed to just be this person and then switch out. But yeah, it was fun. I did enjoy that, but yeah, I would love to see more videos with the commentary section or just full-on breakdowns of clips. I've really enjoyed the Ender series from Dig. I really wish that they'd bring that back. It inspired me to do... Yeah, it inspired me to do 2 of my own videos that are similar to that, one with myself and one with a buddy of mine, Travis, on a crash that he had. But we would love to see more of those.
Did you already post those?
Yep, yeah, those have been up for a while, but the one is just like, it's me with a big rail hop that I really was like, that was probably the gnarliest thing I've ever done on a bike. So
like handicap to rail hop? Like
no, it's like a kinked rail, basically. Parking lot over a rail to another parking lot below, and it's absolutely massive. I think it's like at least a 8 or 9 foot drop, flat to flat, and then it's just sketchy because there's like, you know, little curb cuts and stuff that you kind of have to hop over to even get to it.
Yeah, that's husky, dude.
It was gnarly as fuck. I really, when I think about it now, I'm like, I should not have ever even attempted that. And I've had a couple pros come to town and I'll show them spots, and like I took Mike Gray there specifically, and Mike, he's done some gnarly shit, man. Like, you know, he would look at that and be like, oh, I'm gonna tail whip this, and he saw it and instantly was like, nope, not touching that, that's fucked. Like, I don't know why you did that. Mike Gray?
Yeah,
he's from like Toronto, like an hour from here. So
yeah, I mistakenly thought he was from Cali, and I think I realized that one day. That's why maybe asked.
He lived in California for a little bit, I think. But yeah, I had him on the show forever ago. I really should like get him back on eventually. It'd be really cool. He was a super, super humble dude, really good guy. And just seeing him come to town and absolutely destroy so many spots that I've taken people to over the years in like 5 minutes is just so gnarly. I really think that he is like one of the most underrated riders in BMX.
Right on.
Definitely. Was there any clips that you guys filmed for the video that were also a challenge or anything like that? There's a clip that I see in that video that's so absolutely fucking gnarly from the friends section. This dude hops up onto a wooden kinked rail and just tire rides. But dude,
yeah,
that clip is wild. Did he manualed it? He did like hop up flat manual, or did he manual the whole thing?
I think he came from the side and manual just the down part in a different clip, maybe in a different video.
Yeah.
So I was shooting on tape, and Shiloh and Lawhead and Ishan, they started getting into HD stuff because they would buy digital cameras just to take photos, to do like sequences, and eventually someone bought one that was good enough to shoot a video.
Right.
I was still on the tape shit, not because I thought it was cool, because it was just like all I had. And so when they sent me HD shit, it like hogged down my computer. I don't know if I like lost footage or what, but I ended up recovering some of that HD footage, and I made a second video. It's a lot shorter. It says fucks with it, lost tape, and it's just all the HD footage that I forgot to put into fucks with it because I had mislabeled it somehow, you know.
There's a wild rail hop into a bank in that footage that you're talking about. I watched that. That was so sick. I've been looking for a spot like that for years.
So that rail hop, Van Homan does in Fit Life.
Really?
Yeah, and like we were like Shiloh just did what Van Homan did. And it was like, well, can we put this in the video? We can. Should we? I don't know. It is really, 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 really sick. And so, like, I don't think there was any conscious decision of it not going in the video because it was all stuck in that lost section.
Right. But yeah, continue on that rail hop, or sorry, the tire ride down that Kinker is the most ridiculous shit ever, dude. It's so wild.
Shiloh's ballsy, man.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a few clips of him that I was really enjoying. He's got that awesome style of riding, just a full-on, full send, right?
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah, he's been killing it ever since he was a little kid. I filmed his first handrail and lost the clip.
Oh no, that's rough.
But on the bright side, I think on the same trip, he did like a 3 times longer rail. It's in that front section where you see him like land and he kind of like his head goes up where he's just like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah,
that was the rail that he did was 3 times longer than his first rail. So
hell yeah. Yeah, that clip was sick too. I always love those long handrails. They're so gnarly, man. I think it takes a lot to actually sit there and just balance it. I've always wanted to crook a handrail, but I'm like looking for the perfect rail to do it on, because I feel like if I just do a crook on like a little 8 stair and it's on and off, it's just not going to be sick. If I find like a good long one, it would be awesome.
Any crook is sick, man. I've tried. I've fucked around with 4 pegs. I've tried to just bunny hop into a flat rail on a crook and immediately fell out of it, and I was like, well, not doing that down a stair set.
I don't know if it's just my like hidden talent is crooked grinds, but like I have never really struggled with crooks too much, but I've only ever done them on flat rails. I've never done it down a handrail or anything. I've always wanted to, but like for some reason I'm somehow good at that trick. It's one of my favorite tricks to do on a rail. Whenever I see a flat rail, that's the first thing I do is go and crook it, because I don't know, there's something about that feeling of like hopping in and locking it. And I don't know if I just do it a specific way where it's like difficult to kind of drop out of it or not, but I don't know, I don't really struggle with it, luckily. But everything else I struggle with. I've literally, dude, I've done tail whips for like the last 6-7 years, and I've maybe caught 50 of them to pedals. The rest of them have been like frame catch with foot on the pedal, like, and I've done thousands of tail whips. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, it's so difficult.
The percentage, you know?
Yeah, dude, the day I had Mike Spinner on the show, and Mike Spinner had talked about his struggle with whips and that he had done that too. That night, I had went out to a skate park and fucking done it to pedals because he had explained it. I'm like, I have to go back and literally listen to that episode and figure out exactly what he said and then start doing that, because I don't know what happened. Like literally, I think just Canadian weather. Went out to a skate park. It was in January, and then I didn't ride till April, and then it was just back on my regular bullshit where I only land on the top tube. I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Holy shit. I mean, isn't it crazy how riders can inspire you to try like mad hard though?
Oh, absolutely. And it was like the weirdest thing, because I think that just the way he explained it, it made so much sense and it just worked. And then since then, I'm like, I don't know, I've just struggled with it.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember when Stevie Churchill had that ride cover where he did that huge truck off like that big concrete thing?
Oh, it's so gnarly. Yeah.
So I was living in Rochester when that issue came out, and I remember reading it, and for some reason I was like, yeah, fucking Stevie, bro. Like, I'm going to get good at bar spins. Like, why not? Like, just fucking get through it. Like, power it out. And because I worked at Kink, I was able to ride this indoor park, kind of like under Kink for like free or whatever. Right. Which was great, because it's like, I went from a skate park being a luxury to it being my bread and butter. And it definitely like helped my riding. But at the same time, like, I tried so hard to get good at bar spins, and I fucking couldn't. Like, I did do a 180 bar once, and I was like, holy shit, that worked. And my buddy Cork was like, no way, you didn't do that. Now I got cocky. This was like the peak of reading the Stevie Churchill interview. I was like, Cork, watch this. And I just like did it on command one time, bunny hop 180 bar flat ground. one time. He saw it. That was it. I've never done one since. I would love to do one in a video park so that people can actually believe me.
Hey, man, you have one person that's seen it, so it counts, dude.
But it's like when you have the clip, you have that memory forever. As long
Definitely.
as you don't, it's your fun receipt.
Absolutely.
Before I worked for Kink, I worked for Van Homan at 2x4 Bike Shop,
Yeah.
and I got nothing but good things to say about that dude. Man, he was such a good boss. Like even when he was pissed at you, he was such a good ass dude.
Yeah, dude, Van Homan is fucking the man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, such a good dude. He when I had him on my show, that was like I went into that with dude, I was so fucking nervous, you know? And like just dude, so easy. Like I can't believe how well that episode went looking back where like, dude, it's mind-blowing how good that dude was at like just in an interview. He literally just sat there and casually drank whiskey the whole night and like had a good time, you know? It was awesome. Like really, really stoked on him. He's the best.
He's the man, yeah.
Definitely. I'm curious, what are you drinking tonight? I saw that you got a beer going, a brew at least.
I got Stacy's mom.
Ooh, what's that?
That's this brewery called Evil Genius. They're actually a Philadelphia-based brewery. I didn't know that until recently.
Nice.
I just gravitated towards their flavors. This one's called There's No Crying in Baseball.
Awesome.
So like every flavor or brew has a different like really weird name, but that's besides the point. I've tried every IPA I can find, and some are good, some suck. I always come back to the Evil Genius ones.
Nice. That's
Maybe
awesome.
Low key, I really wish they would sponsor the podcast.
That would be sick, eh? I know I've always wanted to get a craft beer podcast like sponsor. I think that would be awesome. There's some pretty great craft breweries around here. I actually saw on your Instagram that you had a pumpkin ale from Flying Monkeys, which is like not far from where I am. That's only like a 2-hour drive. So,
dude, I love that. I don't even like pumpkin beer because everything I've ever tried sucked compared to that. Like that to me is like the best. To me, that tastes like a fall back to school special. Like it just tastes so good, and it's a 9%er, so you're wrecked by the end of it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
I
dude.
try to get them shipped to me.
They're great,
but they don't
man.
ship. So
we might be able to sort something out. We'll see. We'll probably have to wait till next year unless I can find them in the local stores around here, but we can figure something out.
That would be amazing. I would reward you for your troubles, for sure.
Of course, yeah. I am drinking some stouts. I don't know if you're a big stout guy, but there's this brewery that's not far from here, like maybe like 15-minute drive, and they do a 3-pack of stouts every year with a like special glass as well. So I always end up getting this, but like they're all barrel aged. So I've had one small can, and that's a 10%, and now I'm on to my second one. So it's gonna be a fun podcast. That's all I'll say.
Nice. How is it? Is it whiskey barrels that they aged it in?
Yep.
Or something?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good, man. I have one in my fridge. It's in a bottle that was aged in bourbon barrels for a year, and it's been in my fridge for the last year. But it was in the bourbon barrels for 5 years, and it's been in my fridge for a year. I'm like, I'm just waiting. That one, I think Taylor and I are going to drink at our wedding. That's kind of our plan. I'm like, that'd be pretty cool. It's one of our breweries that we absolutely love, and I mean, if you just keep it aging, it'll be awesome, I'm sure. So
it's nice when you can keep beer, because I learned the hard way that IPAs you can't keep.
No, you can't keep IPAs. It's only stouts basically that you can really keep and age them.
Yeah. And I was apparently I live really close to a poppin' brewery called Fidance. Have you heard of it?
Fidance?
Yeah.
I have not, unfortunately.
It's like I can almost throw a football to it, but I've had one beer there, but I've never actually been there. It's like elusive. You got to go on a weekday between like 3 o'clock and all kinds of crazy shit. It seems like it's good though.
That's awesome.
You gotta check it out. But
dude, we were at a ska show last night, and I was having the time of my life. But before that, we went to this really fancy like brew pub place that makes incredible food, and they have 10 new taps every single day. I'm like, how do you do 10 20-liter kegs every day? You know what I mean? Like, it literally says like daily rotational list. So I'm like, this is a new thing every single day. And incredible. That place was so expensive. Like, Taylor and I left, and I was like, oof, that burned a hole in the wallet, but that was 100% worth it. The food was incredible, and the beer selection was amazing, and they made awesome mixed drinks for her. So,
hey, isn't that what going out should be?
exactly. I know. We went to a place earlier this week, and it was god awful. Where I'm like, really? I spent like $100 here, and I left literally eating a slice of my fancy pizza. Like, come on, dude. And then this other place, we spent like twice as much, but I was like, that was worth it. That's like what I would rather do. I'd rather go to somewhere here like this. It was way better.
Mm-hmm.
But hell yeah. Moving back to BMX stuff, because I'm sure not everybody likes craft beer and whatnot. Obviously, you're a podcaster. I'm a podcaster. Let's talk about your podcast, though. So what gave you the idea to start your show? And I think it's hard. This is a really difficult question, but who have some of your best guests been? And what I mean by that is like in your opinion, right? Because I have certain guests that I've had on my show where I think that was like the best episode, and others might not agree, you know? But to you, what do you think?
Well, the podcast started just hearing other, like, Hinkins had a podcast. Anderson was doing his by himself at the time, and maybe somebody else. Oh, BMX in Our Blood. And just hearing a little bit of that, just other people talking, just got me so jazzed up. I was like, we need more of this. And as for favorite so far or anything like that, probably the stuff, the frame cast that I did with Lawhead, because it was two people who were, well, Shiloh was there and Ishan were there, so we, there was a lot of a lot of different styles of bike riding in one room where we could talk about this kind of stuff, but it was like two people who are about to buy new frames, talking about what they're considering. So like if I was a BMX company, I would have been eating that episode up just for the sake of like hearing how people talk about frame geometry. Because maybe Dance Comp drops a video of like, oh, what's head tube length? But, another one of my favorite reasons about that episode is because I got a little bit lit up, and I got a little jazzed up because I was around my friends, and I started like getting all hype, and I was like, have you ever taken off a fucking freewheel before? It is the worst thing in the whole BMX spectrum of tasks. And so we were basically describing like what it was like back in the day with like if you had an American bottom bracket shell and you had a sprocket bolt. If your sprocket bolt came out like one thread, it would hit your bottom bracket, the American bottom bracket cup, because it was so big, and then eventually it would jam up, and then you couldn't even like pedal, like your whole bike locked up. So I'm a big purveyor of spline drive. I swear by it, because it's just like you can space your crank out exactly how you want it. You can get your sprocket alignment to your chain perfectly. So, in that episode, we got to really get into the nitty gritty of specs and like, oh man, bottom bracket height is fucking cool.
Hell yeah, dude, that's super sick. I was actually going to say I really enjoy that you have episodes of the show that aren't interviews, but they're more or less focusing on one specific thing, and it's something that I've wanted to try my hand at for a while, but in my own opinion, or like my own take, something that I really enjoyed was, you actually did an episode specifically about the Deathlands iPhone hack, which is like one of your most watched videos too, which is really cool. And then, obviously the BMX shoes that you've done reviews on, which I think is like super sick because it's coming from someone who went out and bought the shoes, who states right away that you don't like the design, you don't like how the colors are clashing and whatnot, and that you're specifically trying it for a review and you want to see how it works out and if the BMX Cup is actually what it's worth. And personally, I bought 2 pairs of shoes from Vans this year. They're the Cult Vans shoes. So I've got the like slip-on ones, and then the I think they're just the low-cut ones. And those are the ones that I ride in. The slip-ons are my work shoes, and I love them. They're great. However, there were certain things that I was a little disappointed with. Like
Right.
and that's just kind of how it happens. I think that what you did, though, is super sick, and I'd love to see more stuff like that. And it kind of seems like you're really into shoes. I've seen a couple things on shoes. So
Yeah, thank you. I would like to do more. Actually, I've always been like really picky about that kind of shit. Like if Orchid was still around, I probably wouldn't be making shoe videos because I'd be like, oh, yep, the Orchid Cobras, I'm good.
hell
But
yeah.
it's just weird to me that like shoes aren't like that crazy, but yet why don't we have one that checks all the boxes for us? I mean, I get it, everybody rides differently, but I gotta say though, those 114s are the closest I found to something checking every box.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm always having a hard time because like I wear the space braces for my ankles,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I do
You
really
put the
like
thing in
those.
too?
Yep. Yeah, I've got the
insert?
plastic pieces. I put 2 of them in one side so that when I do tail whips, if I catch the side of the crank, it doesn't hurt. Which it works really, really well. But that's another factor too, right? You've got to be able to use those. And I found that the high tops that I used to wear for ankle protection, if you wear the space brace and like the Vans skate highs, your ankles literally don't fucking move at all, which is like could be a good thing, I guess, but also I don't know, man. Like I feel like they should move a little bit. Like if it's just like a
Right.
fucking twig, then I feel like it's more or less like ready to snap at any point, right? Like
Yeah, too much pressure kind of
yeah.
holding it. Yeah.
Yeah, I found too that it was difficult to do certain things, right? Like I literally I tried to do the skate highs with my space braces for a little while. And just certain things where like there's those little movements that you don't even think about with your feet, and like it's way more difficult with that. So I think having the like good mix of like both kind of works really well, where you've got the space brace and then the low cut, or you just do the high cuts and that's kind of your ankle protection. But
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I'm at a weird spot with my ankles, man. I rolled my right ankle a long time ago trying to 180 over a trash can, put my foot down, and now I can crack this thing on purpose, like on command, and then when I wake up in the morning, it's god awful annoying. I was talking to my buddy Percy about this because I think he has the same thing where it's like every step crack, crack, crack. And I just started going to physical therapy, and I asked him about it because I started jogging and shit. And the very, very first time I went to go jog, and I went to go like around a corner, and it felt like a tendon in my ankle was like not lined up for the groove in which it was supposed to be in. And nothing really bad happened, but it hurt so bad that I'm like laying on the ground now. And I'm like, I'm just going to go home. And then another time I went to go do jump rope, and like first or second jump in, my ankle felt weird. Like, have you ever like had like, say you were sitting on a ledge where your legs were dangling,
right.
and then you go to jump down onto your feet, and maybe it's because your feet were hanging, whatever it was, like the bones don't settle correctly when you hit the ground, and it's like extremely painful, and you just have to like abort mission.
Right.
That's what it felt like. And I was like trying to jump rope, so I immediately jumped rope once and was like boom onto the ground, and I was like, I'm a fuck. What the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, dude, that's rough. I a little off topic here, but with Muay Thai that I just started, you have to jump rope for like a good 5 minutes before we even do anything at all. That's like our warm up. Dude, I have never realized how fucking difficult it is to jump rope. You wouldn't think that it's like the hardest thing in the world, but I've gotten to a point on where I can do like a good 30 to 45 seconds straight and not like miss the rope. But the first class that I had, it was so absolutely devastating and so sad where I'm like throwing it, it's hitting the ground, and then I'm pulling it and then jumping over it. And then the same thing, right? Because I
Yeah.
couldn't figure it out. And like, I'm a little better at it now, but it's just hilarious when the dudes next to me are just like swinging it around them and then like jumping over it. And then they're doing
Yeah.
that. I'm like, oh my God, man, come on. Like, one day we'll get there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
jumping rope, no thanks. But yeah, we also talked a little bit about dream guests that we would want on our shows, on your show. Now, I think I kind of really got into it on that segment. I talked about Sonny from Hate56, and then I also talked about Colin Furs and a couple other people. Now,
Yeah.
I was really curious, who were some of your dream guests that you would love to have on your podcast?
Brian Wismerski.
Oh, that would be awesome.
You know, like I've talked to Wiz before a little bit here and there, and he's always been really nice. But it's like to be able to get those dudes in front of a microphone, like to agree to be on a microphone. First of all, would probably be hard. Second of all, like making sure you don't waste your time by just geeking out on them, which I would probably have a hard time with because I'm such a fan of Wiz. Like, I don't want to sound like a fanboy, but you know, when I saw him, like he's done so much shit that like him and Bob both did so much shit that everybody borrows from now. And it was probably just like right place, right time. You know, they just so happened to be in that window of the progression scale where like Bob did a 540. Now everybody's doing street 540s, you know. Can I Eat came out in like 2002.
Right.
Now, he did it back then. It's like people just think he's like some old salty angry guy. I don't know if everybody thinks that, but it's just like, yo, he been there, done that. You know, he been around. And Wiz, I'm sure, you know, those dudes have been around the block so much. I bet you they got gajillions of stories.
Dude, I think those dudes are like the perfect guests for a show, right? Because they are the stepping stones within BMX, but they're also kind of like the dudes that are unfortunately almost, and I don't want people to take this in the wrong way, but almost forgotten about in a way. Like when you think of that era of BMX, I think a lot of people think of like a whole bunch of people, and yes, their names come up, but like, I don't know, I think they would have some incredible stories. It'd be really sick to hear what they have to say.
I think, let alone be guests, I think they could have their own podcast.
I think that would turn out really well, yeah.
Did you hear that Bob did one on SoundCloud where he talked to Vinny about, I think, some like a session or something had to do like right around the time of 9/11, and it was just like them talking about like what was going on, and it was just like, this is exactly what I wish I could hear every day. Like
wild, yeah.
You know, like all the pro, like I can't believe there's not a pro bike rider out there with a podcast, because if anybody has, you know, the connections, the stories, you know, the inside scoop, whatever, I don't know, I can't believe that there's not like more pros with podcasts.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really cool what Dennis has done and Fudger with Unclicked, and it's awesome. I mean, I got to be honest, I'm very jealous of how well they've made their show. I think that the fact that they've like been able to do such a great show is incredible. And I wish that I was able to. One of my biggest things that I've always hated about my show is that I am able to get a lot of the guests that they have on, but it's through Zoom, and it's not the same, dude. Like, if you were sitting here across the table from me right now, the vibes would be way better, you know? Like, they're great right now, but, like, just having that connection in person is,
yeah,
like,
we would have probably had a
sick.
session earlier this day.
Yeah.
You know, wrote a manual pad or something. You would have showed me, like, a crazy Canadian spot, you know?
Dude, I've always wanted to do a show where, like, I sit down and I talk with someone, and then we talk about some of the footage that we filmed that day, and then we show that footage, and it's not even like anything crazy, but it's just that casual stuff, right? Like you can go into, it's like such a great way to start a show, especially with people that maybe aren't that great on camera, right? Like I always get a lot of criticism for starting my show out by asking people about how they got into BMX, their first bike, all that stuff. I always hear about it. Even Montana Ricky recently posted on his Instagram that he didn't want to hear this kind of stuff from BMX podcasts. And personally, I really like that question, but for a different reason than others, right? My reasoning is that it's a very easy question for people who just aren't really that comfortable on camera or just getting warmed up with people, right? Like,
Right.
I've stopped really asking it now because I understand that people don't really care that much, but I don't know. It's, for me, I've always found that that is a great way to start a show for people because it lets them think back to their earliest days on BMX. It leaves them in a way that, like, it's not a super hard question. It's always a little bit different. And it kind of creates this like vibe of, okay, we're going to start right where it all began and we're going to work our way till now, right? I think as a guest, that's got to be a very good thing for an interviewer, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's just me personally, though. I understand that a lot of people dislike it. I feel like I know that I've had listeners of my show send me DMs and be like, oh, another popular BMX podcast mentioned that they don't like that people do that. And I'm like, it's all good, man. It's all love, you know? We all do our stuff differently.
And you gotta start somewhere. And like, you can just fast forward. You know, you can listen on 2X. It's not really that big of a deal. It goes back to what I was saying before. Like, we as BMXers take everything to heart because it means so much to every one of us. So when somebody does something annoying that we've heard in every other podcast, and this guy's just dragging on about how he just got his Gary Fisher, like I would, you know, it creates a stir in a weird way, but it's like, realistically, it's not that big of a deal. And you know, for the uninitiated, because I've had people who don't ride tell me that they listened to my podcast before, and I was like, really? You know, so for them to hear like how Joe Kidd on a Stingray figured it out and got his first bike, because that's the other thing, is like, not everybody comes from solid means, you know. Some people had to steal money to get their fucking first bike. Some people stole their first bike. It's like, there is interesting stories there.
Absolutely. And I also think that like the first bike that you get kind of shapes your riding after that, you know? Like, I don't know. I really enjoy that question, and I'm always a little disappointed that people don't like it as much as I do. And I understand it. You know, it gets repetitive when every episode I do starts with that. And I completely hear the criticisms, and I think that they're very valid. But I will, you know, die on that rock of, it's a very good question to start with guests because it opens up a very good segment for an interview where it's easy for them, but it also kind of figures out the vibe on how the show will go from there, you know?
Right.
And it creates...
And that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Because you could always, like, cut it out in you know, in post if you're like, all right, we got them warmed up, we don't really need it in there. Or, like, save it for, like, Instagram Reels or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, gajillions of ways to...
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, getting back on your podcast a little bit, I was really curious, who have some of your influences been, maybe outside of BMX for your podcast?
Oh, awesome question, dude. So many. Ari Shafir.
Hell yeah.
Because he does themes with each episode, and he puts so much care in each episode that he does like an intro where he talks about shit in the beginning, like, this is the conversation we have, and he has like an outro where he's like, that was crazy, huh? Like, he kind of like, I don't do that, but I'm inspired by that because like he would pick songs. Joey Diaz,
nice. The Church of What's Happening.
Yes, back then the Church. I used to listen to the Church all the time. I don't listen as much anymore, but like, but how raw he would be, just like tell it how it is. And who else? Fuck. I don't even know. I don't know why those are the only two that are coming to mind all of a sudden.
No, it's all good, man.
Like, there's different like nerdy ones I listen to, like Tim Ferriss or like Huberman Lab, where you're learning a lot of information and data about things. I'm a sponge for information, so it's like, I want you to be able to come to my podcast and you're gonna get some kind of information, something to chew on, whether it's a bike rider's history or this shoe's good, or oh fuck man, the iPad doesn't work correctly how it should, or hey, check out this death lens. Like there's something there. Maybe I'm a little dorky, maybe I'm a little wonky, but at the same time it's like I'm trying to play substance in there.
Absolutely, dude. You don't want to just do a show that's like just out there and nobody actually takes anything away from it, right? Like the whole point of doing a podcast is like getting your ideas and your information and what you find interesting out there, right? Like I think that that plays a big factor. And even a lot of the comedy podcasts that I listen to, realistically, like there's nothing in there that you really learn about that you're like, oh, good information. Right. But you get laughs out of it, and you get those moments where you're like, you really just enjoy it. You know, it kind of maybe you start to look at things a little differently just because of that. Like, I don't know. I absolutely am a huge fan of the Tim Dillon Show. And it's unfortunate that like things have changed recently with that show. But like, dude,
so
well, the producer from that show left. I don't know if you saw that, but
no, I saw that he was doing a different show, but I didn't know he left.
Yeah, unfortunately, I guess that they had, you know, just a little bit of a breakup, which is unfortunate. You know, Ben was, I really enjoyed having him there, even though he was literally just a laugh track where he would hop in with certain things. But I think that the dynamic behind the show, when it comes to like the stuff that's behind the scenes, has changed a lot. You know, Tim is at his best when he is doing just takes on the most ridiculous things politically or just whatever, right? When he's just so overly sarcastic and so like overly ranting and just all that stuff. Having guests on his show is fun and it's cool, but it's just Tim is literally at his best when he's bitching about Airbnb or something else like that, you know?
I wish he had Cameo because I would pay him to roast me because I would.
Oh, he's dude, so good. Yeah.
Because you would have the ultimate roast and you'd be like, okay, now I know. Now I know.
Yeah, either that or you get Andrew Schultz to do it. But I'm like, that might fucking hit a little too close to home. He's like way too good at roasting people.
Oh, did you see when Mr. Beast was on the Schultz show?
Yep. Yeah, Flagrant. I definitely listened to that. It was fucking super interesting.
Yeah, he's like, oh man, you only got this many followers or this many subscribers?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh fuck, so good, dude. Yeah, is there any other shows that you can think of that maybe inspired your show or that you try to take influence from or anything that you would want to work towards?
I don't know. Like I think there's stuff I want to work towards. I can't think of the shows right off the top of my head. You know, there's this show called Group Chat I listen to, and it's drama from Fantasy Factory. I never actually watched Fantasy Factory. I don't even know him as Drama. I just stumbled across him somehow on YouTube, and it's him and his two Indian friends, and they're like, you know, the one's in investment banking, the other one's in like clothing, and they're like in LA and like they know people, whatever. But like, oh yeah, there's also another podcast called All In that got started during quarantine. It's like these billionaires that talk, like Chama, and basically I got my wife into Group Chat because Group Chat's like really, it's like current events. They do it like twice a week. And it's like mostly the consistency and like the lightheartedness and the friendliness about it that I love so much. And then the All In podcast is very similar, but you're going to add like add 6 zeros to the end of that.
That's hilarious.
And like for the All In podcast, they do like intros every episode where they like, it's almost like a nice intro, but they're like roasting each other at the same time.
Right.
And it's like, that's what I feel like that's the next corner that BMX podcasting needs to turn is like BMX podcast episodes aren't like video parts. There's not just one Aiken episode. There's not just one Van Homan episode. Shit. What if you had Aiken, Homan, and Foster on an episode, one episode a week? You know what I mean? Like just to hear that banter back and forth. Like once we can get to that point where like maybe other people, I mean, the other thing is like, who wants to be in front of a camera? It's hard. I don't necessarily want to be in front of a camera, but I also feel like BMX is kind of needs more conversation, so I'm just going to try and contribute. And seeing more people, genuinely, the more people that get into this, the more I'm like, okay, maybe next year I don't have to do this anymore because everybody else is going to be talking.
Right.
But also it's like a podcast can be as often as you want with whoever you want. So it's like, you don't need to quit it. You don't even need to really ever start it if you just, have, bring people on that maybe no one's ever heard of or no one's heard the story for. Like, shit, Ari had a homeless girl on, and the episode was called Spange, and it was just like what it was like to ask for change, and it was like, fuck, like that's, probably not a lot of jokes in that episode, but I learned something there, you know what I mean?
Definitely. I think Theo Vaughn does a really good job of that too, where sometimes he'll just bring in, a plumber or like something super random. And I think it works really well, especially as a comedian, right? But when it comes to BMX, it's a little bit more difficult. But like, dude, I really think that like, it would be sick to just have more of an open conversation with like tons of other people, like. Mm-hmm. I really love doing the pro episodes where I talk to, some of the biggest pros in the world and whatnot. Like the inner BMX like lover is just, dude, I fucking love it. It's so incredible to have those opportunities, and it means so much to me that they would, take that risk. But at the same time, I feel like there's so many more important people in the scene that do just, so much, but also they're not recognized as these huge pros that are like super important to us, And I think that like those people kind of build what BMX is, and it would be awesome to be able to have all of those people on. But then at the same time, I know we talked a little bit about this before the show, but I don't know. I feel like as a podcast host, you kind of have a responsibility to deliver a good episode to the people. And it can be difficult with somebody who doesn't have as much going on as the pros, right? Like it's pretty easy to go and look at a pro who's done all this stuff over the course of 20 years and break it down into a 3-hour interview and get a good product out of it. That's kind of what I've realized. It's a lot harder to sit down with somebody who's a lot less known and make sure that everything that comes out of that makes everybody look good and also drives enough interest that people are going to listen, share it, and want to listen to more of it, And I think podcasting is difficult because I don't know if you get the same thing here, but I don't get a lot of the like stats on how long somebody listens for. I get the stats on how many people downloaded it, where they were from, and a couple of other little things, but I don't see where people started to drop off. And I can't take that as like, oh, okay, people stopped listening here because it just wasn't that interesting, right? Or they skipped here. It'd be a lot better to know. And I mean, I think a hard thing with podcasting, is a lot of the times when you put out a good episode, you work so hard on it and then you don't really get a response. You just see the downloads. You're like, oh yeah, okay, people are liking it. And a lot of times when you have a bad episode, somebody might message you and say, hey, didn't really like it, I'd love to see more people say, hey, I really enjoyed this part or something like that. But I don't know, maybe I'm just taking it a little too far personally, but you
want to look at the data.
Yeah, exactly. I really enjoy doing this, and I want to. It's been a struggle lately because I want to put out good stuff and I want people to enjoy it, but I don't know what people want, So maybe I should just keep doing what I do. But
yeah. Do you post them on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I post them on YouTube. I do all of that, but
YouTube tells you when I mean, I don't really pay attention to that much, but
yeah,
they do retention, but
they do. The only thing with YouTube is that it's like you don't get a very good basis of all of your listeners, right? Like within podcasting, if you have a video podcast, 18%-ish of your listeners, maybe 18%-ish, watch on YouTube. The rest of it is all through every other platform, right? So it's unfortunate, but that's just how it works. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely splinters out, and there's a lot.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've learned from podcasting that you've been able to kind of take into your daily life or anything like that, like a big lesson of any kind?
Absolutely, dude. just trying to keep trains of thought, trying to keep outlines of what you want to cover. I've gotten so much better at like thinking and talking. I mean, I'm still terrible, but I got so much better just from, baptism by fire of putting myself through this a little bit. Because, you know, especially in the beginning, when I was heavily editing it, I'd like hear myself ramble or get too excited and have to cut it out. And like once you keep re-editing the same part of yourself out of conversations, you start to realize how to like maybe how not to get too excited and just go full blown gnarly.
Definitely.
But
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like from podcasting I've learned how to like keep a conversation really quick and interesting and like fun and people enjoy it, and like you get rid of a lot of that stuff that maybe that you just are able to trim that fat out of a conversation that people don't really listen to or it doesn't really process. It's just useless information, you know what I mean? Like just having a normal conversation with people, I feel like I'm a lot quicker with my responses and just know how to like segue to the next thing, But
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I've got a couple other things. If you've still got some time left, we're about 2 hours in, so
Right on.
hell yeah. I really wanted to talk about Ride PA a little bit because I think that this is one of the coolest projects that started from such a small group of people, essentially, right? It was essentially just you and, oh my God, I'm forgetting his name. The other guy that started this magazine. Why am I forgetting his name? Mike, yes. I knew it started with an M, but dude, you guys have worked so hard on creating something that's super sick. And, how did you get involved with Ride PA? And can you fill in the listeners on basically how it all started and what your role in the project is?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely Mike's baby, he had a blog called Long Lane Productions. I think he might even had a website before that, but I forget what it was. But Long Lane Productions was kind of like the come up where he would like post stuff, talk about it, but it was mostly PA based. And eventually he kind of like rebranded it to Ride PA BMX and had like a Facebook group and there was like a lot of people in it. And then Instagram, it started like, so he kind of like developed a following. And then as we were doing the stuff with fucks with it and stuff, it became like a, what's it called? Like what's that word? Not self-fulfilling, but like he would post the shit and then, we became into cahoots with each other. And then he asked me he did a project called Quaker State. Well, he got everybody together and he wanted to do a video project. And I was like, just joking around. I said, Quaker State would be kind of cool since it's based on Pennsylvania and, you can't get beer in grocery stores here.
Love it.
And so then I designed this little logo that looked like the Quaker State graphic, but with a keystone. And we kind of ran with it from there. And he asked me to help out with, doing the first issue. He might have asked me to help out a couple random things before that for the website, maybe. I know I was like, I'll edit photo sequences. Like my buddy Lawhead will take photos and then I'll stitch them together for him. And then Percy would post it on Ride PA and it would be like photos of Eshawn and Shiloh and Cam, all these other Pennsylvania-based riders. So I think the Instagram started to get such a following that he was like, all right, I think we should do a magazine. And then, the photographers were very generous with their work and submitted stuff. And Mike was really, really good with following through with people and gathering all the stuff into like nice organized folders for me. And then we did 3 issues. He's kind of like on the fence about a 4th issue, so maybe you gotta like hype him up to get him into it, but he's having a hard time. Like basically all the content is so online so quick, you can't cover news. Like if you're going to do a zine, you almost kind of have to just pick some stuff and go instead of doing new stuff.
I think that's the difficult part about doing a magazine in 2022. You know, everything is online, like you said. It's all very quick and it's all super digestible, and like people read it and then they never want to see it again, right? They want to move on to the next thing. And it's difficult because, like, if I think about the zine that I would want to put out, it's a lot of photos and maybe interviews with people, but unfortunately not a lot of news, right? Not a lot of like, okay, well, this happened this year specifically, right? Like, you kind of
Right.
want to focus on like maybe just in-depth stuff where you're doing like, I know a lot of BMX magazines used to do this, but they would do like full on a few pages of just like throughout someone's riding career, you know? I feel like that's kind of like the thing to do nowadays because it lets people dive deep into that. You kind of have to find the weaknesses of what a BMX magazine in 2022 would be and just play off the strengths fully and get rid of those, right?
You make a great point there.
I'd love to see, honestly, I really love that you guys have been doing this. And like Mike obviously has been putting so much work into this. And I would love to see a fourth issue. I think a lot of people would, you know? I remember when I first heard about this, I was really excited and really hoping that we would see, you know, at least an issue a year. Um,
Right. We should be at least doing an issue a year, Mike. You hear that?
there you go. But, dude, honestly, I think Dig has it right now. You know, it's really difficult to compete with somebody like Dig, who they do a yearly issue. And the main thing about doing a yearly issue is that you get everything from 2022 all in one place, and you get in-depth looks at it. You also get a look at the up-and-comers who are going to be the people we talk about in a couple of years from now. And we also just get to see all those events and look back at it, right? Like, I don't know, it's tough because you go on Instagram and you see things, and then a week later you don't really think about it too much. But with these magazines, like, the whole point of buying them and having them is that you're going to be able to go and open it in 10 years, right? You should really be putting the most important moments, the most important things within BMX in that like small thing, right? You really got to weigh your options, which is difficult, right? Because even the Dig magazines that they've been releasing have been super thick. They've been really well done. And that's just all part of it, right? When you think about those other magazines where they did an issue every 2 months, they were a lot smaller, and there was a lot of stuff in there that really didn't need to be in there.
Yeah, actually, I had so Kink had a contract with Ride BMX for the back cover for years, and I had the honor to do, I think, one or two back covers for them.
That's awesome, dude.
Realistically, I didn't really design shit. I just kind of did what they told me to. I mean, granted, I'm not complaining, but when the issues came out, though, they were paper thin. They were brochures. It was like basically the end of Ride. So it was like, oh, this is really cool. I got to be a part of Ride, sort of.
Right.
But it's done. You know, like this thing's 30 pages thick. You know.
Yeah, it's just not the same, right? Like, I feel like with those magazines, we had magazines at one point that were 200 pages, and like that's really difficult to do in 2 months, but it's a lot more difficult when you are posting all of that shit online and only taking a few things from it to post in the magazine instead, right?
Yeah, and you know, part of the cool part about like a Dig is you get to see some of that design. You know, some of the graphic elements. Like I grew up on that shit, like Faction Magazine, Dig, Ride UK, you know, BMX Plus. I mean, I took them all in. Like, you know, as a young kid, I took all that in it, like unbiased. You know, I didn't know what was what. And eventually, you kind of be like, I mean, I gravitated towards the Faction Magazine. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but that's John. That would be a GOAT guest right there, John Paul Rogers, because he made a magazine for years, and the magazine was just all about being, you know, a rowdy person. He talked about he had a how-to of how to get money to get home, where you go, or how to steal a Snickers bar, where you go and you get like a one of those frozen drinks, and like you fill it up halfway and you throw a Snickers in there and you fill it up the rest of the way, and then you're able to walk out of there with a Snickers bar.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. There was some really good articles in those magazines, man. I can't remember exactly what one it was. I feel like it's a Dig magazine, but there was an article on how to be a BMX squatter. And there was like literally an interview with people that were squatting in this house, building ramps in it. And they were saying like, all right, if you're going to squat in a house, you need to have all of your shit ready to go, and you can't have a lot of things. You got to be able to get out of there within 30 seconds, right? Like if the cops show up to come kick you out of there, you don't want to get caught. You got to move on, right? I thought that was so fucking cool. Like it's just such a weird thing to put in there, but it's also like I feel like that's what made Vice years ago so awesome, right? Was like those weird things that you don't really think about that actually grab your attention. And I guess what I want to ask too is like, if you were tasked with building a BMX magazine for 2022 and the audience and how all that stuff works, what would be some of the things that you might take into, account and think like, okay, this is how I want to do this magazine?
It would be either like really long stories, like in-depth stories. Like I would love to know like what Harrison Boyce did at McNeil, because I just looked up to him so hard. But also like little things like that, like how to do this, how to do that. Like if you get a new stem and it's a different length, a different reach, but you want your bars exactly where you had them before, you take a tape measure and you measure from your crossbar to the wall. Like you put your bike up against the wall and you just measure. Like that's such a cool tip that I didn't know until I was like already riding for like 8 years.
I didn't know that until literally just right now. So,
dude, shout out to Dan Palumbo. He taught me when I worked at 2x4. He taught me that, and I was like, dude, I was over here like biting my fingernails about buying a new stem, and you just alleviated exactly what I was worried about.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like I love little shit like that, like little bike mods.
Dude, that's wicked. Yeah, I think it would be cool to see a magazine like nowadays with all those things. And I think another one too is like I was saying earlier, you really got to focus on the strengths of like print media versus like Instagram and everything else, right? Like Instagram is quick, it's digestible, people move on within the next 10 seconds. If your video is 15 seconds long, but the content doesn't actually start until 7 seconds, no one's seen it, Whereas with print, they're buying it to see that, right? So you really got to play off of like, okay, if someone's buying this, they want to see everything. So show them everything. But
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, like that lifestyle stuff where you get to see their hands are all fucked up from falling, and oh, this is how they lived, and oh, this is where they had to go get groceries when they were, filming clips in wherever.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think all that stuff would be incredible to see in a magazine. I think honestly I'd love to see another issue from Ride PA. It'd be sweet to see them at least make it to 5 issues, Love to see it. So get on it, Mike. I'm very excited for the future for you guys.
Thanks. Hopefully he sees this and gets jazzed up.
I'm sure he will. Hell yeah. So a couple more here if you don't mind. But yeah, moving on for that Jibs for John jam. This was really cool. It's a DIY spot in, is it in Philly?
Yeah.
Nice. That's really sick, man. How'd that go? It looked like it was awesome. I saw a bunch of clips from you, so.
It was incredible. I had a little bit of anxiety. I really wasn't sure how it was going to go. I lived in Philly for like 6 years, and a lot of those people I had known for a while but haven't seen in a very long time, and you're just kind of like, fuck, man, did everybody forget about me? Whatever, you just get a little in your head about it.
Definitely.
And like also like being a fundraiser, I was a little worried like it's like a gang just gonna roll up on us and be like, what's up, thanks, like,
yeah.
I just think worst case scenario, and I'm like, we're trying to raise money for this dude, and like I just would hate for something to happen, but it ended up going so smoothly and so good. Everybody was really supportive and helpful, and I got to meet some people that I had Zoom podcasts with. I finally got to meet in person. That was really fun. Shout out to Small Fry, shout out to Dan Deal. Like, finally getting to see those people in real life was really cool. I didn't really ride. I fucked up my hand right before, so I just kind of hung out. I ended up winning the one Odyssey prize pack. I was kind of stoked on that.
Hell
Um,
yeah! What came in that prize pack?
I thought it was like a duffel bag, some tires, and like a tool. And then I won it, and I was like, "Holy fuck! A pair of forks too."
Jeez, that's sick.
Yeah, because I had recently, like, right around quarantine time, I used my tax return to buy like a new frame, new cranks, new everything, but like back hub and fork.
Right.
So I was like, yes, I was stoked. And the rake, the fork rake was like correct for what I want. I don't want anything too short because I don't know what I'm doing with it.
I know. I switched out to the F25s a while ago, and
Oh,
before that, I was riding like 28s or 32s, and I really wish I would have stuck with some like F32s if that was a thing. I
yeah,
think they are, but just like, dude, I don't know. I really
yeah.
hate that like that short rake on the forks. I don't know. I've always loved having that like longer spot, and I think it helps with like certain tricks too, especially like Canadians and whatnot. Like I
Is that the
really
foot jam? Canadian front tire
Canadian,
jam?
yeah, Canadian nose pick. Do you know you know what a Canadian is, right?
So I once wrote an article for Dig,
Right.
and it was called 5 BMX Nicknames. And basically, I love coming up with nicknames for things when I'm out with my buddies riding, whatever they're doing. And one of the things I had a nickname for, I called it a Dave Osato. Basically, if you did a over toothpick, I would just call that a Dave Osato.
That's hilarious. That's awesome. I love it.
But Dig didn't like that one, so I had to come up with another one. But I'm like, oh, it's a Dave Osato.
That's a Dave Asado. I like that. Dude, yeah, Canadians are the best. I am terrible at them, but like a good Canadian, nose pick on a quarter pipe. Oh, there's nothing fucking wilder than that.
You think you could get Osato on the pod?
I've tried. I
Oh
have
shit!
tried to get him on and have either received no response or just like, I'm not interested.
Right.
If you know who John Heaton is, John actually lives in Kitchener, and I ride with him every once in a while. I've always wanted to have John on the show, but he just keeps dodging me, so I don't think he's that interested. And I get it. John's kind of living a different life now. He's actually a police officer, so I don't think he would
Good.
want to come in here and talk about all the illegal things he's done over the years.
Uh, right.
I've really, really wanted to have Jay Miron on the show, but Jay unfortunately is not interested. I've tried, and I constantly get messages, and I apologize, guys. I really would love to have Jay on, but he's moved on to other things in his life, and that's okay, you know?
I mean, yeah, and he's also seems like that kind of person too, to be like, yeah, I don't even give a shit. Like, I'm not going on.
Yeah. Yeah, he basically had just told me, like, BMX was a big part of his life, but unfortunately he's moved on and it doesn't really feel right to come in and talk about those accomplishments. He wants to focus on, tomorrow essentially, which is like
You
a
think
really
he'll
good
eventually
response.
get to a point where he'll feel like talking about it once he gets a little bit older, maybe?
I don't know. I mean, he did do a video not too long ago with Stu and all them, and that was a really good like micro documentary just on Jay and his riding and what he's up to nowadays. But
Really? I'm
I
getting 10 out. Where'd you see this?
it was somewhat recently, like I think it was like 2-ish years ago. I mean, I don't know how recent that is, but like it was
That's
on YouTube.
recent.
Yeah, I'll try and find a link to it and send it to you. So it was really good though. It's only like a 10-minute thing, I think, but like it shows a lot of the stuff that he did on a bike and talks about like the accomplishments that he made and how he was like, the all-around rider. And then it shows footage of his woodworking and everything that he's been up to the last few years. And it's really
Yeah.
cool to see somebody be at the top limits of like BMX transition into something else and then also be one of the top dudes from that, right? Like I've never really been that into furniture or anything, but like the stuff that he is making is incredible and like very, very interesting.
Yeah, how how cool would it be to have a J Miron furniture piece?
Oh, it'd be sick, dude. I'd love to have that.
Yeah, that would be fucking cool as hell. And
Yeah.
I think he sets an example of that there's more to life than BMX, because I feel like, I mean, even I feel like I wasted some part of my life kind of thinking I was gonna be somebody that I wasn't. You know, like I don't know if I was delusional or what, but like I kind of wish I would have figured it out sooner. Like I don't know if like part of me was just like, nah, something's gonna happen. I swear, you know.
Dude,
So,
I fully agree with you. And this is something that I have been struggling with a lot lately, more than ever, is just like, BMX is such an important part of my life and it will always be a part of my life. I don't ever picture a moment in my life that BMX isn't something that I have within my, life, I guess. But it's something that I struggle with all the time and thinking about like, I've done 104 episodes of this podcast talking about BMX. I've done DVDs where I filmed BMX that took years to produce. I've done YouTube videos. I've done all this stuff and like, I don't know, man. I always kind of wish that like things played out a little bit better, but at the same time it's like none of this would have ever mattered, and I don't think that I would be living a better life without all of this. I really think that like having this thing that you're so into to the point on where no matter what the outcome is, you're going to do it because you enjoy it is awesome. And it's something that a lot of people don't have, right? Like think
yeah.
about the amount of people that just go to work every day and then after work they go home and they watch TV or they do, whatever, right? But they don't have that thing that drives them, that thing that like they constantly think about. And I think that that is like such a big factor. And it's such a, I don't know, it's tough because obviously, you put so much work in, you want some kind of repayment for it. But I think at the end of the day, just having people listen and having people even just like interact or just the experience that you get and the life lessons you get out of doing this kind of stuff, even if you are just a dude who rides BMX and nothing more, is so much worth it, like than what the alternative could be.
Yeah, I got two things I want to bring up. First of all, have you ever heard of the website called Feeble BMX?
I've heard the name. I don't recall anything about it though.
So when back in the day, before I didn't know about BMX board or bike guide right away. I
Right.
somehow or another stumbled across Feeble BMX, and I think Feeble BMX was Canadian, but it was like it felt like normal, like a normal lifestyle where like you just went out to the park, maybe you got some photos, maybe you got some clips, you came back to the forum, you posted them, everybody chimed in, that was it. You went back out and hung out with your buddies. It was like such a cool, like, no, this can be a lifestyle. It's not like you're burning the candle at both ends. Theo Vaughn had Scott Stapp from Creed on.
Interesting.
I hit play on that, like, not really sure where this is going to go. Probably going to turn this off in 5 minutes. Ended up being glued to it. And it was so interesting because the dude was ready to laugh at himself, didn't take him too seriously. I mean, maybe it was an act, whatever. I don't give a shit. Like, either way, he was cool in that episode. But he talked about having an ego and, like, when he was younger, that ego got him through certain things. But then once you get to a certain point, now you got to put that away. And I think of BMX in a very similar way, where I came from, like, kind of a ratty upbringing. And if I didn't have BMX, I'd probably be on something really stupid and dumb. So I look at it as like BMX saved me from that. Now I gotta save me from BMX. Like I can still ride, but I'm not gonna go break my arm on a rail and then just ignore it because I'm so BMX that I'm not even gonna go to the doc. You know what I mean? Like.
No, absolutely. I totally get what you're saying. I think that a lot of BMX riders have tough guy syndrome where it's like, oh, fucking, I'm gonna do this and nothing else because this is the only thing that matters. And if I get hurt doing it, then whatever, right? And I was really bad for that, where like the only thing that I cared about was just riding, and that was it. And to the point on where like, you just don't deal with certain things. I have a friend who's like a really good rider, but he is notorious for like getting really fucked up on his bike and then like a week later not going to the doctor, not doing anything, being back on the bike. And it's like, dude, if you don't take care of yourself now, in 10 years you're not going to be able to do this. Like, it's going to be a lot harder,
Yeah, and I'm going through that right now. I actually just had a hip MRI last week. Next week I find out what happened. So like I was that guy for like 10 years, I drank 40s and ate cheesesteaks and drank dollar energy drinks for way too long. And now I'm at 36, I'm trying to figure it out.
Definitely. Yeah, man, I think this is a good transition into a segment that you do on your show, which is basically just about health and how we can improve ourselves as BMX riders. So any health advice for aging BMX riders out there?
I mean, step one is just definitely stretching. I think I asked Brant if he stretches, and he's like, no, not really. And I was like, damn, dude, like that's crazy. Because I mean, he's always got those parks around, so you can kind of like nibble around to warm up. But like, I have to stretch just to feel normal. I mean, I don't know if I have just shitty genes, but stretching. My favorite part about stretching is like it lets you know what condition your body is in for the day. So you can kind of get a grasp of like, okay, this is tight. Okay. Oh, it's not tight. Everything feels good. Okay. Now I feel good about taking the next step forward and getting down on something. Like, I didn't ride. I got like COVID and then I got food poisoning and I was out for like 2 to 3 weeks. And I got back on the bike and my feet were like cramping from supporting my weight on the pedals, like such a weird.
Oh wow, yeah.
And it was like I rode for an hour, like I felt fine, like my body felt fine, but my feet were like, bro, we ain't got another hour in us, like that's it. And that goes back to like the stiff footwear versus the slim footwear. Sometimes I'll ride in like thin footwear or like go walking in thin footwear, like if I have to go do errands, on purpose to like quote unquote strengthen my feet. You got to figure out ways to like hack strength, because like when you're young and in your 20s, you can clip that rail on that big 180, land directly on your shoulder, and somehow be in one piece. But I bet you if we did that at our age, I mean, yeah, you're a little bit younger than me, but still, like,
dude, it's rough. Yeah, I have been struggling with this. So with Muay Thai, I've been really focusing on doing like big kicks and whatnot and like figuring that out. Dude, every fucking time that I leave like a pads class, I go home, I'll sit down on the couch, and then an hour later I'll go up to, go rock a piss or do whatever. And immediately my fucking leg is just like so sore, so locked up. And I didn't get kicked. I wasn't in a fight. I was literally just using my leg to kick the pads, And I'm really starting to see that it's like, dude, there's years and years and years of BMX abuse have like done this to me, and probably years and years and years of drinking beer and whatnot too. I'm not going to, and an unhealthy diet. It's a whole list of things. However, it stems from BMX riding. That's what I'll say. But, yeah, I think that all that stuff combined, it's like I'm really starting to take a look at my health. And at 26 years old, it feels weird to be like, okay, well, maybe, I need to improve here, here, and here. I never would have thought of that 10 years ago when I was 16, right? I would have been like, oh, well, if that dude is having issues with his leg or whatever, he's just a pussy, Like, it's a bad way of looking at things, but.
Yeah, I did this thing today where I had an elastic band between my ankles and I was like sidestepping,
Right.
I'd never done that before. And the physical therapist was like, yeah, that should help with your agility and like your side to side stuff you were talking about. And I was like, holy shit, she actually listened. Like, And I did it. Like at first, it was like mad easy. Like I can't believe this is an exercise. But by the time I got to the end of the room, I was like, oh fuck, I see what you're talking about now. But there was, I think it was a Dennis Anderson video, and it was a Rich Foreign video.
Right.
Dennis Anderson just happened to have like a couple clips, and there was like one B-roll clip of Anderson doing something with elastic bands, and immediately I was like, why isn't there a podcast about whatever the fuck that dude is on? Why isn't there a podcast about what Garrett does? Because it seemed like ever since Garrett got on Nike got Garrett hooked up with some trainers or something, and then when other people came on Fiend, it seems like Garrett hooked them up, and they all just got like mad healthy and mad good.
Definitely. I think that there's a very good argument to be made that if you take care of your body and you worry and you put a lot of that like effort into what you're putting in your body, the things that you're doing to make sure that it's in good shape, that you will perform better, right? It's almost a proven fact because, you know, there's a lot of street riders out there who probably just go out, eat crappy food all day, fucking drink beer all day, and then they get a couple clips and they're feeling good. But I don't know, man. I really think that like the park riders are at a point where like they worry so much about that, and they have like coaches and whatnot on where their whole idea is not about getting a clip that day. Their whole idea is like building a journey to a specific trick or something that they want to lock in to a certain point. And I think that is a very admirable part of BMX that unfortunately doesn't get enough love, or it's just not as well respected as, you know, a street clip gets. Like street clips are awesome, and I will love street riding to the day I die. I think street riding is what captures BMX in its best moments. However, when you see the dedication and the work that, you know, Logan Martin or any of these big park riders go through, it is way more impressive just what they do behind the scenes, you know?
Mm-hmm. And it goes back to the lifestyle thing. Like if you're pedaling every single day, all day, you might be able to get away with drinking 40s and eating pizza.
Definitely. Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like you're just like, are you familiar with knees over toes guy?
Oh no, I should be though. Sorry.
I saw that like once I found him, I was like, oh shit, there's a couple pros that I was already following. It's, you know, it says that they follow him too, and I was like, I thought I was on the tip of the iceberg. Turns out I'm late to the party. Like, come on, man, y'all motherfuckers know about this guy, and ain't nobody like blasting his practices on anybody's podcast. Because I started to mess around with his stuff a little bit, and I immediately felt stronger in my knees. But then I also realized how much more I had to do. You know,
right?
You gotta do a lot.
Break it down for the listeners who might not know what is this dude all about?
He was a guy who he was on Rogan. That's probably the best episode to really ingratiate or whatever.
Right.
Familiarize yourself with him. But he had terrible knees in high school. He was told he wouldn't be able to do college basketball. He really wanted to, you know. He couldn't. His knees were too fucked up, which sounds like a lot of bike riders. And he ended up figuring out, you know, this knees over toes exercise, which was like a faux pas to like the workout people, physical therapy people back in the day. I don't know what kind of people, maybe I'm mislabeling them, but it was deemed as something you shouldn't do. And he learned that, no, you can do this. Just don't do it through pain. If you feel pain, stop. And just condition, and you build up the muscles right above your knees. And now he's kind of quirky, he's kind of funny. Like, to me, he's goofy, but like, it's fine. Like, I don't mind. Like, so he'll like, oh, I do this and I do this and I do this, and then he goes whoop-ah, and does like the dunk on the basketball hoop, because, you know, he's trying to like TikTok it up or whatever. But it's like, I went to the doctor, they gave me x-rays. I didn't see the x-rays. The doctor saw the x-rays. He looks at my knee, he bends it, and he's like, you need physical therapy. Physical therapist is like giving me shit to do. And it's all well and good, but it's like, I see this guy getting good. I see that how explosive this guy's power. He's practicing what he preaches, and it's obvious it works. So it's like, I just love that. I love shit like that where it's like somebody's leading by example.
Hell
And
yeah.
he does really short little videos that are like super easy for you to like save and like practice later. There's a
Love it.
skateboarder like that too. Have you heard of Neen Williams?
Yes, I actually have. Yeah.
He has an ab workout that I do weekly, and it's nothing super crazy, but it's hard. I've only gotten through it once, like gotten through it exactly how he did it, because it's so much.
That's wild, dude. We do ab workouts in Muay Thai, and like one of the popular things that we do for conditioning is we'll do. Uh, oh my god, I can't even remember the name of it for some reason right now. But we literally do like what is I guess Thai sit-ups where you will punch yourself in the shins on both sides hard, and then you'll punch yourself in the thighs as hard as you can on the sides, and then you will lay down and punch yourself in the stomach with both hands. And you just that is one rep. You have to do like 20 of those. And I believe they're called Thai sit-ups. And then like there's a few other things too. And it might not make sense to people, but like a big thing in Muay Thai is like getting your shins conditioned, right? Like there's so many exhibition fights where you'll see like a Muay Thai guy versus an American kickboxer, and the Muay Thai guy wins because he can just kick way fucking harder, and he knows how to like, it's just,
Right.
dude, it's ridiculous. But that is one of those things where I'm like, dude, by next year, shinners aren't even gonna bother me. I'm gonna be fucking good to go.
Right. Yeah. Some dead nerves.
Hell yeah. Dude, this has been a ton of fun. Thank you so much for coming on. I got one last question for you. I really am just curious. What do you got going on for 2023? Do you have any big goals or anything?
Yeah, I mean, my goal is to be more consistent. Like, I got married this year, and I feel like I had to really pay attention to how that stuff went down and really focus on that. We did, and so this coming year, you got to focus on yourself. You got to focus on your relationships. You got to focus on the people who matter most around you.
Absolutely.
But then I have these hobbies where like they'd be a little bit more cool if I could do them a little bit more consistently. So like ever since the wedding was over, I started trying to like get up on the podcast more, but it's like the podcast is just for fun. I mean, you know what I mean? Like I don't have to do it every day, but I feel like if I did, or every week, but I feel like if I did, get a little bit more consistency to it. So the goal for 2023 is, to be able to get into more bike shops, to be able to handle the workload of more bike shops, and keep preaching the good word of taking care of yourself, and doing more episodes while also riding and having a life outside of BMX too.
Hell yeah, dude. I love it.
Yeah.
Super excited for you. I'm really excited to see what you're able to accomplish next year. And I really think, again, I know I was talking about it earlier, but I think everything that you're doing with the pad sets and everything else is super sick. I would love to see more of that next year. And dude, honestly, just keep posting your show and just keep doing it. And I definitely agree. It's hard to get consistent. And I think the hardest part is literally just finding guests who have the same time as you, that you're able to do it, and also just making sure that it's a good show, right? Like that's the main thing that I worry about. I'm sure it's a thing that you worry about too, So
yeah. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Dude, absolutely. This has been a lot of fun, so thank you for coming on. We'll 100% do some more episodes together. I think it would be kind of cool to do an episode or two where maybe we both come on as hosts and then bring on a guest and interview them at the same time. I think that we have a very good dynamic going. So,
oh yeah, man.
Hell yeah. Cool. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.